Yep, that was the game you were playing yesterday, I guess.
Yep, of course. See, I was double checking, and whenever I double check anything, you can pretty much guarantee that something is gonna get missed. For me, double checking does not increase the likelihood of something going right, it increases the likelihood of something going wrong.
That's why I check things like 10 times.
But now, there's a decent chance that we might be streaming to the correct thing, possibly. Maybe.
It appears we are.
Let's see, I am also going to try and make YouTube stop the other stream, just on the occasional chance that it's just going to continue. There we go. Right. Lovely. Everything is working. 12 minutes later, but everything is working. Hello, chat. Normally I start by, like, introducing the guests. Like, hey, we have a person here that might make you want to watch us. Unusual as that may be. But we've introduced ourselves by screwing up the stream today, so.
Lovely.
Hello, everyone. I see
Hi.
I see all the kick devs in the chat already. Hi, guys.
It was Dev's fault, it's true.
Wait, how is it my? I don't have access to your restream.
I'll find
It's
a reason,
always your
Dev.
fault.
Oh, you've learned really quick, haven't you? You've been here like 5 minutes. You already picked up on the vibe.
It's always your fault. You are not going to convince us otherwise.
Today's guest is Vera Dark. There will be links, of course, to her down in the description below. I would put it in the title, but I needed too much space to shield the drama.
Makes sense. Definitely.
Lots of drama.
We actually have a couple of funny things today. Like, nothing too serious, honestly, just mostly funny. Beginning with, since Vera, you started as a tabletop channel, didn't you?
I did. Way back when I started as a tabletop channel, primarily covering, like, it was primarily CCGs, but then I kind of shifted to, in general, tabletop, Dungeons and Dragons, and things like that. And I still like tabletop games, don't get me wrong, but unfortunately, it's become so awful over the past few years specifically that it just has become hard to support a lot of the companies within the space, which is, yeah, unfortunately, where I kind of decided to go down a different path, because I cover primarily video games now and stream them because, first of all, I love them. I always have, but tabletop, especially with WotC, is completely lost, at least for the moment. I don't see a way to save it, so I spend most of my time trying to stop the video game industry from being completely torn apart.
Well, I think we're about 10 years too late on that one, but hey, we can at least fix it. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And on
Things
that
are slowly
note,
coming back. I still maintain that like the woke is slowly being put away. We've crested the hill. It'll be okay, guys. No more doom pills today, okay?
oh yeah, we're heading in the right direction. Now we get
Yeah.
to see how far in the right direction we're gonna head.
I mean, things always kind of pendulum swing around. We'll return back to when we were younger, Arch, when like you had religious right-wing people who were like censoring games. Yeah, it'll swing back around, all right? It always goes back and forth.
It
Yeah.
probably will. But for now, at least, it's the left-wingers who are slowly getting cancelled by themselves still, as Wizards of the Coast is a very progressive company, and I think a year ago or something like that now, one of the executive producers, I put the link in the link channel, Kyle Brink, stated, "There's been mistakes made in years past where people assume that D&D players were all, white dudes in a basement, which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years and gets more and more false every day. And so in my viewpoint, honestly, guys like me can't leave soon enough for this hobby." And Kyle Brink was fired the other day, replaced by a woman.
Be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it.
Oh, that's fucking great, dude.
That is
It
I
is.
remember this
great.
quote too. Like I'm not really in the tabletop space. Like I play with you, Arch, sometimes because like you're my friend and other friends are in there. But like I don't play them myself. I'm the guy who like kind of comes along. I'm more of a video gamer. But when it comes to tabletop, when it comes to things like Warhammer, when it comes to video games, a lot of these spaces are all operating the same right now, and they all have the same problems. So I know what's going on.
Yeah. And what's hilarious about this is there are a lot of D&D Beyond moderators absolutely coping because when he initially said that quote about the, D&D players and, there needs to be less people that look like him in the hobby, it was interesting because there was a lot of people that said he was talking about leadership positions, but he used the words D&D players were white dudes in a basement. I mean, how can you like misinterpret that? It's such an SJW cope. And it's hilarious now because there are people still saying the same thing on like Twitter/X, saying, oh, he didn't mean that. You guys are sharing around like a false statement. You're missing context, but that's clearly not the case.
Oh yeah, like we know exactly how his brand of politics thinks. He meant this as he says, well, white dudes in a basement. That is him identifying the white dudes, and then himself going, people like me can't leave soon enough. You would have to have an incredibly charitable take to go like, oh, in leadership positions. No.
Right, like what other bizarro context can you create from that statement? Like it doesn't make sense how they're saying, oh, well, he meant leadership positions. No, he didn't. He specified Dungeons and Dragons players.
Oh yeah. This was a classic SJW outgroup preference comment where he's like, oh, I am a bad white man, but, I'm one of the good ones, so I should stay in my position, but all of the other people like me should totally leave. And, well, he was the first one out the door, which is comic justice, if nothing else.
Yeah, good riddance.
This is how I know that you've been in this conversation for a while, Vera, is because you said SJW and not woke. All the new arrivals to this stuff say woke now.
Well,
but it means the same thing,
I still
basically.
think it's a relevant word or term to use, but I mean, he is just a massive social justice warrior.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
And he's also put his, just to hammer home the point as well, it's like, oh, that's totally not what he meant. He's got his post protected now.
Yeah, I mean,
he knows.
This is absolutely hilarious because, right, he knows that he is going to be laughed at and mocked because of his statement. He got what he wanted. And it's great because while he wasn't, one of the only people that ruined the game, right? He was only there for 3 years, but the executive producer of Dungeons and Dragons for 2 years. He is one of the people that is behind a lot of the problems that are going on at the company at this point. He is one of the people who, I don't know, continue to perpetuate the idea that things like disclaimers were needed and that alterations and, desecration of older content is okay in the re-released products.
Oh, yeah. And this is, for anyone who's unaware of the D&D thing, this has been going on for a long time now. Dungeons and Dragons started to kind of like open its doors to politics like 5-6 years ago, and it has just been hammered for the entire period. There are dozens of articles alleging that D&D is racist, alleging that it has a horrible past, alleging that its creators were racist, etc., etc., etc. Because the moment you agree with one of the woke's ideas, you are going to have to take on board all of it. And there was even, I think last year, they went over the re-release of one of the early adventures, and they mentioned that it was horribly racist, like, made by white men. They had fighting men as a class. Oh, disgusting. It would never pass, what was it, diversity review today?
Yes, that is insane. We've seen this argument for a very long time with, certain things being racist. It stems back to Tolkien and, the orcs are racist. And then it's kind of spun into, the orcs in Dungeons and Dragons and all of these different things. I mean, we have seen so many alterations because of the claim that things are not diverse enough or inclusive enough, which of course is awful. I mean, we got into alterations like half races. The orcs have always been racist because apparently Tolkien was racist. And then, more recently we had the Hadozi situation where an original race never created to mock anyone was seen as offensive, but people projected their own racism into the Hadozi. So they changed everything around. And then we have the disclaimers on the legacy Dungeons and Dragons products, basically calling all the older authors racist. It's insanity what is going on at Wizards of the Coast because of people like Kyle Brink, but also specifically like Chris Cox. He was one of the people who kind of started this movement in Wizards of the Coast, which unfortunately a lot of tabletop companies have also, picked up on.
Oh yeah, because this became the culture.
Yes.
It became what was socially acceptable, popularly acceptable, and company-wise acceptable.
The question. Fire
and again, Dungeons and Dragons was one of the ones that opened itself up the most to it, and so it is one of the ones that has received the most critique. I mean, this has become mainstream news now that D&D is doing this. And
Heresy's the question.
I mean,
Fire
it kind of came to its logical conclusion recently with the Mexican Orcs.
Oh my god, that is absolutely... It's laughable, but everything they do at this point it's just clown worlds. That's all it boils down to.
Oh yeah, because the orcs, right, okay. Orcs, for me, I would define the orcs primarily from the Tolkien viewpoint as an anti-civilizational force. They are the outsider, they are the invader that every nation has a history of. They are the uncivilized come in to ruin the civilized, to destroy the world of men, etc., etc. And for that, all they really need to be is the classic barbarian, whether that is the Visigoth of the Romans or the Mongolians of the Hungarians, etc., etc. And yet then we came to the idea that orcs were black people. And I remember just receiving a DM one day from a random stranger like, hey, do you think 40k orcs are black people? And I was just, because I hadn't heard this before. So I sat there like, what the fuck is going on now?
Like, how do you take something like an orc and go, oh, black people? You are projecting your own racism onto characters and certain races. And it's just absolutely clown world that these people point and go, this person was a racist when it was never meant to offend anyone. I mean, that's what you're taking out of it. Maybe you're the issue.
Absolutely. Like, the entire notion, because I had never in my life thought previously, looked at an orc and go, black people.
Right, never. Absolutely not.
I think what's going on there is like they look at they take a look at an orc, right? And like I always use Warcraft because Warcraft's what I know the best. So you look at a Warcraft orc, and they're kind of muscular, they're tribal, they're kind of feral, they have like huts, stone technology, and then they're like, well, who does that map onto? And they look over at Africa, like sub-Saharan Africa, and like tribesmen, and they're like, oh, that's who they are, obviously. That's who they're talking about. But you can only make that connection if you yourself are doing you're doing the racial profiling there, like, because the creators aren't, and most gamers aren't. So if you're coming in with this critical eye, and you're connecting it to real world things, like that's you creating the racist content in the orc. It doesn't exist otherwise.
Yeah, well, right. Hold on there, Dev. Hold on a second. I don't believe the Africans build many structures out of stone either, actually. But don't tish.
Okay. All right.
And I mean, it also goes further than that. Going back to Tolkien, he based his stuff on, he had an anti-Nazi stance, and he was very, I don't want to necessarily say vocal with his work, because it definitely is not super obvious to his work. You would really have to dig. His work is very complex, and I understand that. But he was also very vocal in his life about these stances. And to take something like an orc, right, and say, oh, racist, 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 it's just absurd and shows how people do not understand even the man that Tolkien was. And of course, they want to trash his legacy, and then that goes to, other orcs and other properties like Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah. And this is absolutely a part of the left-wing worldview. this is in like Warhammer context, but there was a big subreddit, Marxism, that talked about a lot of this too. And they managed to find a racial equivalent of like every Warhammer race. The Skaven were Jewish, for reasons I've never quite managed to piece together. The Chaos Dwarves too.
I mean,
were
I can get it,
Jewish.
Arch, but I understand what they're saying there. But it's funny to hear them say it, you know?
Oh yeah, and they managed to find like a racial component for everything. And nobody else manages this. Nobody, okay. Greedy, short-sighted, and murderous. That fits for Skaven. Does that... well, Dev, tell me, Dev.
Mm-hmm.
How does that describe Jewish people?
I wish I could tell you. I wish I could tell you, Arch. Well, to be fair, hold on. To be fair, there was that event at the start of the year where you had Jewish people in New York climbing out of holes.
That was funny.
Oh yeah,
yes.
that was very interesting. Not the news I was expecting to hear that week.
But it's like it takes literally like the Nazi interpretation of the Jew and go like, oh, this was clearly the intent of Games Workshop when they created the Skaven. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's absurd. But, you know, this is something I talk about a lot is when you are looking for something to be offended by, you're going to find it. You are going to take whatever information is available and you are going to stretch it to fit your narrative. And that is exactly what these people are doing. And it's so sad that it's happening so often now because there are these new individuals coming into companies like Wizards of the Coast, like Games Workshop, and they're taking this older work and they're trying to find issues so that they can hire other people like, you know, these diversity councils and teams that are reading over work so that they have a job, which of course is absurd. It's so sad that we're seeing so much be sanitized because one person stretched an example or a description and said, well, this could have been, you know, a quote or a description that someone finds offensive. And it's snowflakes finding something to be offended by. And of course that means, you know, more sanitization of older work and also of new work. That's why it's so hard to support so many products now, whether it's books or video games, because there are creatives who now are afraid of cancellation and their work being ripped apart by these individuals. And it's we've gotten to such an absurd place, especially with these companies. It's like how they say the goblins in J.K. Rowling's work in the, you know, the Potterverse, how they're supposed to be Jews too. Like, how do you take these characters and instantly assume, oh, she's a racist, this is, you know, anti-Semitic because she had a goblin in her work, or again, like Tolkien, having an orc. It's ridiculous the lengths that these people will go to find something to be offended by.
And then the best part about all of it is, what is the solution? Okay, so orcs are coded as black people. This is a problem that we apparently need to fix. All right, let's assume we agree with that. What's the solution? We make them Mexican. Oh, I see.
Yep. This surely will be less offensive.
It seems like what they're doing is they're saying, well, we cannot help but stereotype, so let's just make it a positive stereotype instead.
Yeah, but that's the retarded part, right? Because the orcs were stereotypically orcs. Like, we had created a fantasy race that everybody viewed as a fantasy race, and then the diverse and inclusive people somehow managed to turn the fantasy race of orcs into Mexicans.
Yep, because they wouldn't have jobs otherwise. It's similar to what's going on in the gaming industry with narrative consultation companies like Sweet Baby Inc., for example. I'm sure that's the one most people in the chat would know. It's their job to sanitize things and to find things that are offensive, or else they wouldn't have jobs. So we've gotten to a point where a lot of companies are willing to listen to these individuals, and we do know that, you know, a company like Wizards of the Coast, they do have these diversity councils. I don't remember what they
Heresy's the
exactly
question.
called them,
Fire is the
but they're
answer.
usually called the Diversity Council, who goes through work and sanitizes it, and they make things up. That's their job, is to make shit up and say someone's offended by this, even though nobody is, or a small, vocal minority of people on social media end up being offended by it, and then they change it around for everyone, even though most sane people have no issue.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, this is very much so a case of the racism is calling from inside the house here. Oh, and hello, Lumi in chat. I hope you're doing well.
Heresy's the question. Fire is the answer.
Oh,
There
Lumi.
is no
Also, my
solution.
internet's currently shitting itself. Give me a minute.
At least you're not. That's good. And there is no solution to this problem, because
Heresy's
that's
the question.
like the core
Fire is
part
the
of
answer.
this. Woke creates problems. They cannot then solve the problem, because if they solve the problem, they would be out of a job. And particularly in the case of
Heresy's the question.
orcs. Like,
Fire is the
okay,
answer.
orcs are racist. Right, well, how do we fix that? Well, we can't make them unracist because, well, we would just be making orcs again. Literally, if they wanted to make unracist orcs, they'd go back to the porgs of yesteryears, like the pig-faced orcs, or even Tolkien's original, more like cat-like orcs. But no, Mexicans.
Yeah, and you had just mentioned, there's no way to fix it. I mean, technically there is, and that's get rid of all of the people that are infecting these companies. But the issue is that you have so many of those people at these companies. Look at how many activists are at Wizards of the Coast, like Sam Maggs, for example. She was working on the Knights of the Old Republic remake, and she ended up leaving that project to go and work on Dungeons and Dragons. She's a senior writer now, great. But they'd have to purge the majority of the people that work there. So there is technically a solution, but then they'd also have to go through and hire people who are passionate, who understand the source material. And unfortunately, even if we got rid of half those people, there still would inevitably be some of those individuals left. And then it becomes, do they end up changing course and understanding that people do not like them and they're losing money? Or will they basically convert the people that started working there? It's definitely a difficult topic. Unfortunately, I don't see a way that these companies could be saved at this point. But it is an interesting, theory of, if, they fired 60% of the activists, would the other people be willing to put their politics aside and
Heresy's the
just go
question.
back to
Fire is the
creating
answer.
content that people actually want? And who knows? I mean, it'd be worth a shot, but at the same time, there's not a guarantee there. Even if Hasbro cleaned house, it would take a decade plus to fix Dungeons and Dragons for them to course correct. Because, looking at least at the next decade, because of 5e 2024 and the future releases of 1 D&D / 6th edition, that's a clusterfuck because it's supposed to have digital purchases, but who the heck knows how they'll do that and what it'll actually look like. But the point is that those aren't course corrections. 1 D&D is most likely already written, so it's going to be like a decade before people can even
Service
attempt to fix
guarantees
Dungeons and
citizenship.
Dragons, but they'd have to get rid of the activists ruining the game, and releasing products that are woke and full of microtransactions isn't how that's going to happen, and it's not going to go over well with people.
Oh yeah, because this is going to be a very long process. It has started. There was yesterday, CNN announced that they were removing their race and equality team from the company.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting move that I feel a lot of people didn't see coming. Now, is it very surprising? No, because these teams are... they're basically just diversity teams that are meant to sift through content
Heresy's the
again, and then
question.
the
Fire
race
is
and
the answer.
equality topic at companies like CNN. I thought, I did think that was very interesting, but I feel like a lot of people were, of course, on social media laughing at this decision, like, oh, we told you so, that these teams weren't going to do anything for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And We have definitely reached like a cresting peak here, because there was also The Acolyte. Have you been watching that, Vera?
Oh, yeah, unfortunately.
I've been
Part of
keeping
the
up with it as well.
job.
Yeah.
Yep, part of the
Yep.
job. I gotta watch it. That is truly a nightmare. I used to love Star Wars. I was a mega Star Wars fan. And then, well, we got the sequel trilogy, which I didn't think The Force Awakens was bad. I thought it was a good basis to a trilogy. I know that's kind of a
Yeah,
hot
same.
take.
I agree. I
Um,
agree.
yeah, but God, modern Star Wars or new Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, it is just a nightmare. It's so depressing.
See, The Acolyte, in my opinion, was Disney's like absolute all-in gamble, because it does everything the progressive
It
wants.
does. Yeah.
Like every step of the way. It's full progressive. Because I guarantee you, all of these companies have been told by HR, by marketing, by all the activists, like, okay, there's a huge market out there. There's
Heresy's
like
the
billions
question.
of woke
Fire
people
is the
just
answer.
like me that are desperate to consume our product. If just
yeah,
we make it for
surely.
them.
Right, surely.
And that was kind of the Acolyte. It was like, okay, fuck, we haven't done enough. Let's just pull out all the stops, shove all of it in there, and see what happens. And they weren't rewarded, they were punished again.
Yep.
Like, these companies have got the message. Like, it has sunk in. But again, like you say, Vera, it's gonna... like, because you gotta view this like Game of Thrones almost, power politics. There are hundreds of employees in these companies who are going to
Yes.
cling on to their jobs, who are based purely on their identity politics and their view
Heresy's
of
the question.
politics.
Fire is
They are
the
all
answer.
going to need to be purged and fired. Excuses need to be found. Then they need to find people who can actually write non-woke nonsense in the current year. They're going to have to
Yeah.
purge a generation of writers before they can even think about making good old-fashioned entertainment again.
Yeah, and another thing that I see Chad is talking about Rings of Power, which does bring up a very interesting discussion, because if you look at Rings of Power and you look at the writers, the producers, they are all new in the industry. And this is something I've talked about a lot on my
Yep.
channel because I love Tolkien's work. The Rings of Power is an abomination. Oh, just god awful. But they're hiring new people who are willing to basically bend the knee to the politics that the company wants. That's, I feel, why they couldn't get someone like Peter Jackson, because he is a staunch supporter of Tolkien. He understands the lore. And yes, I understand his movies. You know, they did make some deviations, even though they turned out amazing. But he has a clear set vision, and they don't want that from creatives anymore. They want new people they can boss around, that these new people are going to fall to their knees and say, I'm so grateful you hired me for this. But then they can demand they put these small things in and make these changes, gender swap, race swaps, and they go, anything for you because you hired me, a no one, for this job. And it's led to so much bad entertainment.
Oh yeah, and the amateurishness of it as well. Like the guys who are doing Rings of Power, they pulled off the heist of the century.
Oh God, I
They've-
could go on and on about Rings of Power. It's just so god awful.
They secured a 5-season contract commitment from Amazon. Those fuckers are rich,
Well,
and all
actually,
they need to do.
technically,
drag
they
it
only secured 3. The other 2 are not secure at this point.
Ooh, really?
They initially said they wanted to go 5, but they are only currently signed for 3. So there's been a lot of
Service
speculation that
guarantees
after
citizenship.
that third, Amazon's going to say, no way. We've put way too much money into this and have not seen a return.
Oh yeah. Like I have a guy who sends me some information from behind the scenes on Amazon. Jeff Bezos' phone was ringing off the hook after the premiere of Rings of Power. All of the investors were fucking furious.
Yes. Yeah.
Because this
And
was the
it's not
slam dunk.
surprising.
This was supposed to secure Amazon Studios' futures, because how on God's good earth do you mess up Rings of Power? It's Lord of the Rings, for goddammit.
Right. And it's like you are talking about a series that between the first two
Heresy's the
seasons, well,
question.
it was like
Fire is
securing
the
the rights
answer.
the first season, some of the second season, you had $1 billion. My God, that is so much money. Like that, right, should have been a slam dunk with, yes, I get it. There wasn't a lot of source material for that time, but there's enough to go off of. And if you look at the other works that had been made, like Peter Jackson's, you have an understanding of the way that the elves look, the way that certain locations look, kind of the whimsical, magical elements and what made those movies previously so special. And they just did the worst job possible. It's like with the Acolyte, even though it was a new story, they still had a general time frame, which I know can be a little rough when it comes to, fitting your story in a certain part of the timeline, but they had almost $200 million. How do you make series that are that bad?
So this is something that we talked about back when Rings of Power was new. It was me, Arch, Kibbs, and Lilith, and we were doing the watch-alongs. And one thing that I mentioned is that, and I think it's generally true for this current crop of writers, is that like they know the basics of what makes a story good, all right, but they don't know how to assemble all the pieces. Because when you watch Rings of Power, when you watch The Acolyte, or when you watch the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, really fell into this trap. This applies to games, it applies to movies, it applies to TV shows. They have big emotional impact scenes. They have big set pieces. They have all the things that they remember being really cool from the stuff that they grew up watching and playing. And they can at least like craft the facsimile of those, but they don't understand that there also has to be an emotional undercurrent to it, or else you won't care. The viewer just will not care about what's happening, and it just feels fake and phony, and they don't know how to do that part of it. So that's why I liken it to them having the pieces of a good story, and then they assemble it completely incorrectly.
The Gandalf thing is the perfect example of that, because you would think that Gandalf, super important character, right? If we have Gandalf and we reveal Gandalf, everyone's going to fanboy out about it.
Heresy's
the problem is,
fire is
Gandalf doesn't exist in this timeline. He's not in Middle Earth.
Nope.
Right.
This is not a thing. And so, no, people aren't going to fanboy about it. They're going to absolutely hate you because it's going to be you forcing the ever-living shit out of this. Same with the Harfoots, the goddamn hobbits. I remember an interview early on where it's sort of like, hey, the hobbits didn't even do anything in this period, so why are there hobbits? And their justification were, well, you can't have Lord of the Rings without hobbits.
Right.
See, I think a better example, Arch, is the storyline between Sauron and Galadriel in the first season.
Oh, their weird romance thing.
Well, here's the thing, like that was a terrible story, and we all agree with that. However, you can tell what they wanted to do. They wanted to do this seductor story where she falls in love with the guy that she's supposed to be hunting, and then has to make the heart-wrenching decision in the 11th hour to actually do what is right and turn on him. They wanted to do that story, and you could make that a very good story if you had competent writers. But they didn't have the competent writers. They had the pieces of the story, and they just didn't know what to do with them. So that's why it completely fell on its face.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, around that time frame, in general, the hobbits, even though they are very important, they had very little story. And with the Harfoots, I don't think that they did the worst job possible, but also you could just tell they had really no idea what to do with them. The story was just kind of like pieced together, and it felt very bizarrely thrown in so they could market it to people that are nostalgic. And that's just what Rings of Power really is to me, is hey, it's Lord of the Rings, you're nostalgic, come and watch this. And then that goes into characters like Gandalf, and then oh god, the romance they tried to set up was not good with Galadriel and Sauron. And the is I wouldn't mind some kind of romance story being in this. Tolkien wrote amazing romances like Beren and Luthien, but well, the Rings of Power, there was nothing in it that was good.
Yeah.
Yep. And then if you go over to Star Wars Acolyte, from what I haven't finished the show yet, so from what I understand, the moral arc of the show is, what if the Jedi are actually not just this force for good, they're also a force for evil, because they are these religious puritanical people who will go and oppress other users of the Force who have different interpretations. Okay, you can make that a good story.
Yeah,
They just didn't
you
do it.
could.
They didn't
Right.
make it into a good story. They made it shit. And
Yep.
the problem
guarantees
isn't with
citizenship.
the skeletons of the story themselves. The problem is what they do with it. They don't have the talent to actually pull off what they want to say.
Right.
That is it, part of it too, but it's also the fact that this. I found an
Service
article
guarantees
the other day
citizenship.
which was talking about how the fans were the problem with Star Wars, and it began by saying something
God,
very
yeah, I saw that.
interesting. By basically going, Star Wars was a good versus evil story, blah, 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 and this makes it
Heresy's the
limited the
question.
kind of
Fire
stories
is
you
the
can
answer.
tell in that universe. And they presented this as if it was a bad thing. And the thing is, that isn't actually bad. That simply means that this universe is focused around this thing. Because balance in the Star Wars universe isn't that light and dark should be equally strong.
Heresy's
It
the
is that
question.
darkness should actually
Fire
be
is the
eradicated.
answer.
Like, Star Wars has a very pro-genocide view on this thing. The dark side simply shouldn't be. And so if you try to make a story where the dark side is just misunderstood, it's just a different way of using the Force, guys, it doesn't really work. Especially when your dark side user is a clearly crazy person who has no problems killing loads of goddamn people. You could create a Dexter-style story, I guess, where you have like a murderer with a reason, or there was another TV show that covered serial killers a while ago, which I can't remember the name of. But you could create like that sort of, where you have a clear anti-hero.
Yeah, well, the thing is that in the expanded universe, there are gray Jedi or the Gen Jedi, but they're not canon anymore, which is an issue. Is that we had the gray Jedi and they were great, but they're not technically canon anymore. So they tried to like start replicating that, but they didn't quite understand how.
Oh, did you see that one article where someone at Disney complained that there's not enough stories to go around to make new content?
Yeah,
Right,
that was
yeah.
shortly
You
after they
canonized all of it.
decanonized it too.
Oh my god.
Yep.
So yeah, I think what's going on here is like part of it is they don't have the talent to do what they're saying. Part of it is that they don't understand. Okay, here, I'll give a hot take that chat can hate me for this week. Here's the red meat to the chat for this week. And I know that after The Last Jedi, everyone started mocking the idea of subverting expectations, right? Because it was just done so poorly. Subverting expectations is something, however, that, for example, The Dark Knight did back in 2008 or something. That was a movie that did some subversion of expectations. However, the reason that it worked is because it existed in a culture that didn't ever do that, so it was new. And there was already like an established, solid cultural canon from which they could use that to be a foundation and then build a new story on top of it. But we're now at the point where you can't subvert expectations because everything is a subversion of expectations. The idea of a standard is gone. The idea of a cultural canon is gone. The foundation doesn't exist anymore, right? Like you have to know the rules before you can start breaking them and understand when it's correct to break them and when it's incorrect to break them. And that's kind of the problem that we're running into now, is that you can you know what, that really is what it is that you have to learn what the rules are and why they're important, and then once you've really understood that knowledge, then you are prepared to break them. But this new crop of writers doesn't have any of that. They just break the rules because, oh, well, this is cool, right? It's just cool, let's just do it, and then it turns out to be like fucking dog shit.
Well, it's because they're not writers, they're activists.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
They're parading around as writers, but they have no experience that should land them in these roles, whether it's, a game writer, a senior writer, or a writer on a movie or a TV show. They don't deserve the position because they don't have the background for it. And I'm all for, allowing new people in, right? I don't think we should have the only one writer doing, 50 things. I'm fine with newer writers being brought in, but they have to have some level of experience or understanding, and they just don't.
Someone in the chat says exactly what I was trying to say, only a lot better. He said, we've had 10 years of evil Superman. We've had 30 years of evil Superman. All right? Here's the thing. You can do an evil Superman story, but you need most Superman stories to be good in order to actually do an evil Superman story properly. But then as soon that becomes cool, right? So then that's all you do. And it's like, well, then at that point, you do that for 20 years or 30 years. And now the new canon is just evil Superman, and you've completely lost the point of the character. And now new people coming up don't know what to do. That's
Well-
the issue, is that you can subvert, but it has to be done sparingly and properly. You can't just do it all the time.
There's an interesting expansion on this topic here, because in essence, improvisation should only be done with a solid
Fire is
footing
the
in
answer.
doctrine, is what it is. And the evil Superman thing was cool. Like, Injustice did this, and it worked out really well. But it became the thing that everybody wanted to do. And in part, we are cursed by DC because of this, because DC appears to be a company that is incapable of getting on the bandwagon when it's rolling by. Instead, they're always chasing like 5 meters behind it at all times. Which is why all of the DC movies, not only did most of them flop horrifically, but all of them have the same markers in them. All of them are shot in this weirdly dark style, where everything is somewhat grey and diffuse and boring looking, and how all of the heroes have abandoned all of their rules and principles. Like in the Batman v Superman movie, Superman outright just fucking murders a dude. Like the terrorist leader, he could have disabled him in a dozen different ways. He could have lasered his gun, he could have sped over there, disassembled it, he could have stopped the bullet, leaving the barrel. He has an infinite number of ways to disarm this man. Instead, he elects to smash into him at Mach 11 and turn him into fucking vaporized blood.
Yep.
It's
That is
so
true.
dumb.
Well, it's like
So-
also something like, Superman Red Sun, where he crashed in the
Heresy's the
USSR. That was
Yes.
cool.
Fire is
He
the
wasn't
answer.
evil per se, but he believed in communism till the end. But that was interesting. We need stories like that, not. I feel like that is just on a different level of
They are the
Superman.
exceptions.
the
Like you
answer.
need
Yes.
the basic doctrine, which is Superman the hero, which then
Yes.
allows for stories like Red Sun to come out and feel fresh, and actually in turn make Superman as the hero also feel fresh.
Yes, 100%.
So the ongoing conversation that we have on this channel, we've had it now for almost a year at this point, is how much of this is due to politics and how much of this is due to
Fire
them
is the
being
answer.
bad at their jobs, because they're related but not quite the same thing. So what do you think, Vera?
I feel like there is a mixture of incompetence and malice when it comes to these people. I do feel like there are individuals who don't understand, or they try to, understand, and they write something that they think is great. But then there's also the people like the activists who are coming in just to ruin things. And I feel like that's the problem with modern entertainment, is that there is a mixture of those two groups that are overpowering the passionate, good writers.
Yeah. So I know that there are some people out there who think that it's all malice. It's all malice all the way down. I don't agree. And the reason that I don't agree is because there actually are occasionally good leftist pieces of art that are explicitly leftist. I always use the example of Disco Elysium as being a great RPG, Celeste as being a great platform game. Like, these are made explicitly by just completely leftist teams, and they are overtly political and they're overtly left-leaning. So,
Yeah.
So like, you can still make good stuff. The issue seems to be that once they make something bad, they say, oh, well, it's people just hate me because I'm a leftist and you're like an evil alt-right gamergator man baby chud. It's like, well, no, you actually just made something wrong this time. It was shitty. What you created was bad, right? So, but there's also malice too, though. So I've also gone over this several times, but you're new here, Vera. I interviewed someone who worked on the Saints Row reboot.
Oh,
Maybe
Jesus.
last
Yeah.
summer sometime.
Oh,
I
I covered that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, that fucking game was terrible.
Yep.
To be fair though, if you play it without getting the day one patch, it's hilariously broken and not just boring. So
Yep, that
it's
is true.
It's still worth it to play. But I talked to a guy who worked on it, and he basically said that the people at the very top of the company, they weren't political at all. They just wanted to make money, and then they were told by middle managers who were very political that this is what would make them money. So you should do this, and then people at the bottom like him were just kind of stuck. They were just stuck with doing whatever they were told. A bunch of the writing staff had to leave. They brought in some outside contracted writers to like punch up the script to try to get the game out the door. It was a clusterfuck of a development cycle for that game. You can tell by looking at the game. But also, it wasn't just politics that ruined it. It was greed and ignorance at the top of the company as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I get a lot of flack for this, but I'm a gaming live streamer. I live stream 20, 25, 30 hours a week, and I will still play games that I generally look at and I think look like trash, like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I live stream that in its entirety on my channel. Next week, I plan to stream the Sweet Baby Inc. Flintlock Siege of Dawn, because even though I
Service
think it's going to be bad
citizenship.
and it is filled with teams of activists, it's still my job to cover it, and I want to give things a chance because, like you said, sometimes people on the left can create decent entertainment, and the thing is that a lot of the times they don't, which is true, and they're, the ideologies that they believe in, they definitely do push. But I still try to give some of these people a chance, because sometimes things do surprise you, and I always say this: everyone's got their own opinion, and I don't want to judge someone based off their opinion. It's the way that they put their opinion into their works, especially in movies, TV shows, video games. If they are going to create something, I'd prefer them to leave their personal politics at the door, but sometimes they can create decent things, and they are just generally good at their job. I mean, Apple TV had written a show, Dark Matter 2024, and I know Dark Matter, there's been several Dark Matters, but it was written by leftists, and it actually came out pretty good.
I haven't heard of it, to be honest. So I don't know.
Yeah, it came out not very long ago, and it just had finished a couple weeks ago, but it was actually pretty decent. I mean, was it the best piece of entertainment I've ever seen? No, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think Red Letter Media made a similar point a few weeks ago. I think it was Rich on Red Letter Media. He said that at the exact same time back in the 80s, you had Ghostbusters come out, and Ghostbusters is an unapologetically libertarian story about three small businessmen, starting up their business and scraping all their money together and like managing to make it off the sweat of their own brow. And then it's the government that comes in and ruins everything, the incompetent bureaucracy that doesn't know what's going on, and they cause the destruction, right? And then at the exact same time, RoboCop comes out. And RoboCop is a very leftist story. It's a critique of policing and the police state in the United States. It's a critique of capitalism. It's a very left-leaning story. And both of these movies came out, and they came out around the same time. And they're both really good, regardless of the political slant of the story and the people involved. Because at the very least in the 80s, you had to make a good story to stand out. There was a lot of bad stories as well, but like, you know what I mean though, is that like, even if you were political overtly, you still had to make a good story to make it.
Right.
There was no ESG fund propping you up or anything like that.
Right.
There is also the thing here too is you can make a good left-wing story if that is what you go out to actually make. The problem is that now so many left-wing writers are trying to write stories in other universes where they don't belong. The Superman thing is a perfect example of that. Superman cannot be written well in the modern-day view of a progressive, because he is in essence the law and order, the Boy Scout, the truth, justice, American way character. He has to be subverted. Same with Batman. He has to be subverted as well, because you can no longer have that kind of heroism anymore, not without it being political heroism. And if you can't,
that's why you always hear like Batman's a fascist. It's like, well,
Yes.
why is he a fascist? Because he's rich and he beats up like poor people who are criminals, and they should be institutionalized and not arrested. And fuck the police. It's like, well, I understand your point of view, but that's fucking stupid.
Because it leads to a lack of reverence for the character. That is why you have Man of Steel, Superman killed General Zod in the first movie. Like, this is a complete misunderstanding of the character of Superman. If you want Superman to kill somebody, it better be 3 fucking movies in. Like, that needs to be an extreme situation after he's already demonstrated the ability to solve the problem in other ways. That needs to be an absolute incredible end of the line, I have no other options, impactful scene, which is what they were going for. It was the same with Batman v Superman, because they were like, okay, well, this has to sell. It's Batman v Superman, right? Yeah, and it would if you had set it the fuck up but you didn't. You just dumped it on everybody's lap and went, this is what you like, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the MCU works. They spent 10 years setting it up before the first Avengers movie. That's what they need.
It was also the MCU had scope. There's another thing too. Tony Stark is Tony Stark first,
Service
Iron Man
guaranteed
second.
citizenship.
Superman was never Clark Kent in the Superman movies, and so there was no scope and scale. You went directly to the big fight against General Zod. There was no part in which
guaranteed
Tony Stark was
citizenship.
fighting against goddamn terrorists and building his first armor out of scrap. There was no interpersonal relationship with Pepper Potts. And so all you had was this flat level of engagement, which is the highest one. Batman v Superman. That's about as a high level engagement as it gets, and no flaw. And so you don't have anywhere to go from there. There's no escalation, there's no coolness, there's no greater than. It's just Superman punches Batman and Batman brings out kryptonite. Great.
So one thing I realized, this segment's about D&D, and what I've noticed is whenever we have a conversation like this, no matter who the guest is or anything, or if it's just you and I, Arch, it always goes down this specific rabbit hole because the same thing is happening to all of these mediums.
Oh yeah.
To all of these forms of entertainment. And you know, the argument is, you know, is it incompetence, is it malice? It's obviously a mixture of both. And there's like several ways to look at it, because, you know, if it's malice, well, then they're doing it because they have a certain political ideology that they want to push, and they have no problem with, you know, subverting these properties and these cultural institutions and kind of getting in there and saying, you know what, even though this is supposed to be, you're supposed to like make a good game out of this, we're going to actually, you know, use a soapbox and convert it, you know. And Arch, I'm sure I'll put it in the link channel. I'm sure you've seen this guy's tweets before. He used to work at Riot Games, where he just said it. He already said it back in 2020. Where he said, as a game developer, as a manufacturer of cultural content which specializes in resonance, you have an obligation to advance social justice and diverse representation. You're not just making art. You are not just making art. You are participating in the formation of bedrock. There was a time in which we could resort and rest on the creation of aesthetics of the known. That time is past. As stewards and bookkeepers of artifacts, both widely consumed and niche, artists, writers, and designers have a responsibility to wrap diversity and justice in the consumable. The pedantic and irrelevant cry of the social justice warrior agenda is not only a tired one, but one of desperate grasping of dying cultural relevance, a vestigial organ of a sunsetting class of consumers who don't represent the bulk of the audience and have no ability to create anyway. So this was back in 2020, and he's basically saying you have a moral obligation to make things more left-wing if you're an artist or if you exist in any one of these companies or these institutions. And people who hate it, well, they don't matter because they're dying out and the new audience is here, and fuck you. However, in the 4 years since he's said this, it hasn't really come true because all of these companies are rolling this shit back and consumers are generally just rejecting this.
Service guarantees.
So this is like the malice position, just stated plainly. You need to get in there and push your politics forward, even at the expense of the quality of the thing. The incompetence position is, well, like why is it that they're incompetent? That's kind of a tricky question, right? Like, why are these people not capable of making better work, regardless of their politics? And then the answer to that is probably something like, well, if you hire for diverse representation reasons rather than reasons of merit, you're probably going to end up just over time getting worse people in the job, right? In your workplace. So if you take in like 50 resumes for a job, and the best person for the job per their credentials is, you know, a black wheelchair-bound transbian, okay, fine, you don't hire them because they're the best for the job. However, if they're like the worst out of the 50, but they're the most diverse and you hire them for that reason, well, you've just missed out on 49 better people who could do better work. And now you do that for, you know, several 100,000 job openings over the past 10 or 20 years. You end up with a workforce that just can't, even if they're a diverse workforce and a very left-leaning workforce, even if you put a gun to their heads and said, no, you will make the big-boobed anime girl as the next protagonist of this game, they can't actually do it. They don't have the skills to do it.
Right, and it's actually funny because this guy had recently basically attacked all of the YouTube channels talking about the culture war and bringing up his statement all over Star Wars Outlaws because he was basically saying, you guys don't know what real women look like, and you guys are just getting upset over a female's body proportions. And he was going on and on against gamers and, of course, content creators just like us. But this is the same guy who said that, they have an obligation to advance social justice. So that's why he was on board with Star Wars Outlaws and the character model change.
Right. And I talked about this with Lumi, actually, I think a few weeks ago, Arch, but I put the image in there again. This is the model that did the face scan for the Star Wars Outlaw character.
Yeah.
And, like, she's
beautiful. She is beautiful.
Yeah. So they put her in the game, and she's not nearly as attractive in the game. And it's like, well, what did you guys do? How did you fuck this up? And we know, by the way, that it's not just that they can't fucking do it. Sometimes it is, but in this case, it's not, because we've seen them scan in male actors, and they look pretty much one for one.
Yep, and in the other Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games, Cameron Monaghan as what's Cal Kestis, that's it. Yeah, I mean, he looked amazing. He looked just like him. It was crazy. But then you have situations like this, and we know that this game has a large budget. It's not like it's a low budget game, so why are they not utilizing the same technology to make them look one for one? Well, that's because it's a female character.
It's also the passion part of it as well, because we've even got a more recent example with this woman. We must pull every lever we have for LGBTQ representation, who was recently hired by CD Projekt Red as a senior writer. The thing is, even if you are theoretically competent, a person can only be passionate for so many things. You have your natural interests, right? And if your natural interest is social justice, you are not going to be as good, in all due likelihood, at writing a non-social justice story. And so if all you can think about is LGBTQ representation in the video game, you might be able to write a fantastic LGBTQ game, but you're not going to make a very good cyberpunk game.
Right. It's completely different.
And, I mean, this all goes also to the entire idea of female character design. I'll put this in chat. This was a meme that was going around for a little bit, which I've changed up here, about how it's totally okay to have strong jawlines because they make them look heroic. On the right-hand side, you see the original image, and on the left, I literally just removed the character's makeup and gave them, like, simplistic eyes. And you can see immediately, if you'd taken the hair as well and malified it, it now looks like a man. Because we actually do know this. We have art tutorials explaining what makes a character look feminine and what makes a character look masculine. And there is no way that these fuckers, after 10 years of design school, don't know this.
Right, they clearly do. And so they're doing these things intentionally. They're making the decision to alter these females' faces, and we're talking about beautiful females here. Same with the Fable situation. She was a beautiful model, and then we end up with the fucking Crimson Chin over there. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not acceptable. It's not what people want. And then you get into the hypocrisy with these people. It's perfectly fine to have a male character who looks strong, who looks masculine, who has his shirt off, but it's never okay for a female to look feminine. It is absurd. We just saw this with the Acolyte is a great example. There has been so much divide over the Acolyte, but you have people like Alyssa Mercante saying it is perfectly fine to have this type of fan service and have men with their shirts off and showing their muscles because it's what she likes to look at. But then you have the same person going after Stellar Blade saying, oh, it's not okay that we have this fictional woman, in a very risque outfit. The hypocrisy with these people is insane. And then if you don't like the changes that they're making, it instantly becomes you're an you're a phobe, all of these different things. I mean, it's not okay, but they don't care because it's their opinion.
Have you heard of the term safe horny? You know what's going on there?
Yep, I do.
Yeah, don't gotta explain that one to you. Okay.
No, you don't.
So yeah, this cartoon that you posted, the four panel cartoon of the woman jaw and the man jaw. So I have seen that before because it was drawn with reference to the new Perfect Dark game.
Yes, that's
And
another one.
there's the new Perfect Dark game art. So Perfect Dark was a first-person shooter on the Nintendo 64, so back when I was a kid, and then also on the Xbox later on. And it's been like, the IP has been dormant for like 20 years. And then they announced a new one a couple months ago. It's like, oh great, dude, Perfect Dark, awesome, they're bringing it back. And then it's like, oh, that's Joanna Dark. That's how she looks now. You
How
just
they
gave her
massacred my poor girl.
oh my god, that's what they did to. Oh
Yep.
Jesus, like that's rough.
It is.
That's rough. I guess I don't know if I'll be playing that one, guys. Maybe I'll skip out, even though I loved Perfect Dark as a kid.
Rough and yet inescapable.
Yep, a lot of these activists are very anti-male gaze, and that's, of course, the fictional concept they all go back to. Oh, we can't have Joanna Dark looking the way she used to because it appealed to the male gaze, which is just so absurd.
Now she's Joanna Dark.
Yes. Yep.
So here's the thing, right? Like I've always maintained that you can, like, it's like I said with the you can subvert expectations if you have a solid foundation. You can do this sort of thing, but only once in a while, right? Like you can make a very masculine female character who's like muscular and has like broad shoulders and like femboy abs and like a strong jaw. You can do that character, but you can't make every single fucking female character in your cultural canon that you can't do that. You can have that character once in a while because she is not realistic, but her being not realistic is what makes her interesting. But if that's
Right.
all you get, it becomes very boring.
Yeah, I mean, I love her older design. I get it's more stylized, but she just looks so unique. Where the new Joanna model just looks, she just doesn't look good. She looks like a man. I'm
Like
sorry. The
every
crimson
other
chin is not
man-faced
attractive.
protagonist.
Yeah.
Yep. It removes the uniqueness because you don't have a design anymore. You have a man with red hair.
Yep.
Right, let me delve into a few super chats for a little bit, and then we'll move on to my favorite topic of the day. Dev explaining to me how the European Union did nothing wrong.
I haven't followed this story. I don't know what's going on.
Don't worry, Dev. I trust you to give me the pro-state take. Zero. Vera, so good to have you on. No fight yet?
No, Alyssa blocked me. She doesn't want to. She says she was going to beat everyone up. She said she'd beat me up in a street, and then she blocked me. So,
That's
no,
right. You were supposed to box her,
Guarantees
right?
citizenship.
Yeah, we had companies reaching out to us like Keemstar's Happy Punch. He was like, I'll set this up for you guys. We'll do it. And she was like, I don't think so.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember this, because she made a public declaration on, like, the Giant Bomb podcast or something, like, I will fight any one of you! And, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, fight me physically, bitch. And then there were many females who were actually like, yeah, I'll do it. And then companies reached out to us and she backed out. She did not want to go through with it. And then, of course, she ended up, accusing me of being obsessed with her simply for covering her in videos. And then she threatened me and blocked me. So, interesting stuff with her.
So aside from like podcast appearances like here or Side Scrollers or somewhere else, I haven't talked about her on my channel. I don't think I've talked about her on Twitter, but she has me blocked. And I'm like, oh, why? Why do you have me blocked?
Yeah,
like my Twitter account isn't even like my name. It's Sleepy Devo because I've been banned like a dozen times off Twitter at this point over the years. So I have like a ghost account called Sleepy Devo, and it's like, why did you block me? Like, no one knows who I am on Twitter. I guess some people know now at this point, but you know what I mean, though.
Yeah. It could have been a block chain, but
yeah,
she blocks and unblocks, blocks and unblocks, and it's her tactic, and it's a stupid tactic. It's like if you want to talk to someone, just talk to them, but she doesn't do that.
So there was like a BLM podcast she went on when the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff was going down, and I recall this wasn't on a stream; it was offline. I was watching a bit of it with Craig, and I was like, man, I would love to sit down and talk to this person for like 5 minutes, because the joke in the chat is that I'm a communist. I'm not a communist, actually, by the way, but I was one when I was like 18 years old, and I did read a bunch of the communist theory, so I know all of the lefty arguments, and I'm like, you know what? I would love to talk to this person, just because I know every single thing that she's saying. I know what she means by it when she says it, and in ways that most people wouldn't. And I was like, man, this would be like the easiest conversation for you to have. But she would never, ever sit down and talk to me. No fucking way.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, she blocks people that. I mean, a lot of these individuals, these activists, they poke the bear and they threaten you or they say something about you and then they block you. I mean, she has all my moderators blocked. She went that far. Like,
That's
what
crazy.
kind of unhinged behavior is that?
That's pretty wild, actually.
Silver Camaro 78. Dev, getting HIV is bad. Wear a diaper instead. Why did you say that, Dev?
Well, that's because... Hold on. Wait, fuck you. I didn't say that. That was a super chat. I didn't say that shit, Arch. Okay, the reason that's being super chatted, guys, Arch, you should bring it up because we should at least spend 30 seconds on it, okay? I'll repost it. I'll repost it. Come on. I'll repost it in the link channel. So, currently, the entire internet left is very angry at me because of this take that I gave, where there was this trans activist named FemK Ultra, and she basically exclaimed that she thinks that she thinks that being monogamous is strange, and that only having sex with people that you're romantically interested in is strange, and in fact sex is better used to have just to strengthen friendships. Have sex with all your friends, become closer with them. And then she said, well, some of my friends are HIV positive, so I take medication in order to not contract HIV while I'm fucking literally everyone I know. And so I said, you need to take pills to not contract HIV. You can't just not have sex with people who have HIV, with a little SpongeBob fish. And my God, for something like 2 days there, my phone just would not stop rumbling. You could just masturbate yourself with it because it would not fucking shut up. Because it was just constant anger from Twitter leftoids and progressives who were like they were saying like I was doing like abstinence only education and I had no idea how sex worked and I just wanted gay people to die. I never mentioned gay people once in this post. I don't know why you're conflating HIV with gay.
You really pissed everybody off.
Yeah, I did. So I made a video of it today, which is actually doing pretty well. But it's also continuing to make people angry. So I'm sure my viewers are now showing up in the chat as they always do, and they're super chatting about today's video. So we'll probably see a bit of that. That's the story. It's fun. It's good to laugh sometimes, and you just say like a normal, reasonable thing that no decent person would complain about, and then everyone gets mad at you. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Dev's ability to make everybody angry by his mere existence continues to prove profitable.
Mm-hmm.
Silver Commando 78. IRL, I usually say woke. For internet shit, SJW. There we go. Dividing line. Game Goblin, thank you for the stream. Dev, I lost 15 pounds in 2 months. If I can do it, so can you. Stop drinking maple syrup and count your calories. Live well.
Congratulations, dude. No, I'm also on the weight loss train. It's been going good the past few months.
Silver Commando 78. The way I distinguish it is if they say, oh, this product is racist, it's an SJW. If they say, we've made this product more inclusive, it's woke.
Fair.
I just have all communists under one
Here's
giant
the question.
blanket, starting
Fire
with
is the
Dev as a
answer.
tent pole.
Oh, yeah?
Nicolaus Cantor, greetings from the Lamenters chapter, Inquisitor Arch, and Dev the Tau. Also, how much for a Let's Play of CK3 after the end mod? All my money to that. I don't know. Argue with the rest of chat, I guess. I do have to set up some more funding goals for games, I guess, soon. I'll think about it. Arno's Foul.
Actually,
Orcs.
Arch,
just
that reminds me.
citizens. What Dev?
Oh, sorry.
What Dev? Dev?
No, you gotta send me that thing.
What Dev? What Dev?
The
What?
secret thing.
The thing? What? What?
Yep. Just reminding you.
What secret thing, Dev?
Service guarantees citizenship.
It's a secret, Arch.
Secret thing, Dev.
Send
Don't
me
worry
the
about it.
secret thing with the secret information.
Mentally going through the Dev drama. It's probably not that one. It's probably not that one either.
Dev, what do you? This is off. This is on a tangent. What do you think of postmodern neo-Marxism?
the Jordan Peterson was saying.
Yep.
I mean, like Jordan Peterson, I wouldn't say knows because he's kind of gone off the deep end, but he knew what he was talking about 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and he was absolutely like vilified and pilloried for it, right? Postmodern neo-Marxism isn't the best way to describe it, but it's close enough.
Also, Dev, that's not a secret. That's just the tracking system I use to keep track of donos. What's wrong with you?
Well, okay, sure.
The secret.
And it's being patched at the moment. Once I get the new version, I'll send it to you.
Yep. Sounds good.
Ikikrat, Skaven are J-boys, Tyranids are J-boys, Orcs are blacks. All of these nutty theories started on leftist forums. Yes, they all have a shared common origin. The Tyranids, too. Like, I compare Tyranids to feminists more so than anything. They destroy everything, leaving behind nothing but biological diversity.
Actually, here's the thing, right? Like, thinking about it real quick, cultural Marxism is probably closer to describing what Jordan Peterson means versus postmodern neo-Marxist. But the problem with that is that everyone thinks that's a Nazi dog whistle, even though it isn't. So
Yep.
that's where we are.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: as soon as you identify what the problem is, and you put a word on it that like more or less maps onto it, so you can say, okay, I see the problem. Here's how I'm going to call the problem, so we can at least talk about it. The pushback is always going to be, well, if you use that word, you're a bigot, obviously, right? And we've seen that with
course.
SJW. We saw it with woke. We've seen it with all of these things, right? So, like, let's say, I don't know what the next term will be after woke kind of fades out, because it will. They always do. Whatever the next term is, they'll be like, hey, if you use that word, you're a bigot, and we can't associate with you. Don't bring this person on your podcast or whatever. It's like, shut up. It's the same playbook all the time.
Yeah, well, you can't say anything now without someone calling you an isterophobe of some sort.
Oh yeah, that's true.
See, Dev, my goal is to make woke Nazi. Literally, just make it the word Nazi again. It will never fade. It will remain a stick with which to beat the people I don't like for all eternity. I've considered Trotskyist fascist because I really like that term, but too overused.
That's fucking hilarious. I like that one has about like 15 nerdy fucking layers underneath it. I get it.
Yes.
But no one else is gonna get it.
No, it's brilliant because Trotsky is fascist is a term with so many layers of depth and socialist depth as well. You say that to 15 different communists, you're gonna get 15 different interpretations. It's brilliant.
Yeah, well, activists always hijack and change words. They change the definitions of things all the time, which is another problem.
Ooh,
Yeah,
chat.
it's all weaponized stuff.
If you ever argue with a leftist, just call them a Trotskyist fascist, and he's going to make the best impression of a fish out of water.
Well, to be fair, like if you argue with like a bog standard progressive that isn't a socialist, they won't know what the fuck you're saying. If you argue with someone who is like, nope, you need to abolish capitalism, then they'll be highly offended. Yeah.
Daniel says, one word, projection. Absolutely. That and keep paying me. I wish to keep a salary going.
Yeah.
PBR Street Gang, Arch, didn't you have a series of videos about Tolkien Foundation a while back getting taken over by an Indian SJW group? Yes, the Tolkien Foundation were big fans of the Rings of Power. Enormous fans, weirdly enough.
It's very strange.
Silver Camaro 78.
Yeah, we were so bad.
Corpos do this because it raises ESG scores, which raises stock prices, because you can get government dollars. They care about stock price, not profit. This is true, Dev. To a degree. See, profit is a reflection on the stock prices, and ESG money only goes so far. But yes, like, CNN has only been able to stay alive for as long as it had, and after the great Trumpian drought of the last 4 years, because of investment money, which is why they're now currently being bought up by Associated Press.
So here's the thing, right? I know that there's a lot of people on the internet. I've seen a lot of people like do deep dives into ESG. I know there's the Bridges thing. I think Kirsch was covering the Bridges thing. I've seen like a whole bunch of like the Geeks and Gamers guys. They've done a little bit of it. So, Side Scrollers talked. Like everyone's talking about this shit right now, right? The issue, there's two problems with the whole ESG thing. One is that it's not necessarily bad. It's just being used very badly right now. Because the idea of ESG initially was like, okay, well, if you simply pursue profit and nothing but profit, there's going to be some negative externalities that come with that, right? And the obvious one is environmental. You have the company that, dumps sludge into the river and does not give a shit that the town downstream gets poisoned and they all die. So you need some way to stop that from happening. Some of that's going to be like environmental regulation. Sometimes what you can do is if a company is cleaner of their own accord, you can then reward them somehow. That's what ESG was basically like, there are certain good behaviors that I think we all agree companies should follow, and if they follow them, we'll reward them. Okay, that's fine. The issue is that the social justice stuff was put in there where it probably just didn't belong, because the environmentalism is not the same thing as social justice. Even though they like to conflate them, they're not. But also social justice made it much easier to get your ESG score up. Why bother cleaning up the environment and the impact of your company when you can just, I don't know, just hire a black woman or something. You know what I mean? Like so it was used completely incorrectly. However, the second half of it is that because it's been used so poorly, like the ESG money is running out. For some reason, the people who have been talking about ESG in the past 6 months think that it's going to go on forever, and it's not. It's just not. If you look up the current ESG numbers, like the money is running dry, the government doesn't care anymore. People who own ESG specific stocks, those stocks are plummeting. People are selling out of them. Like the ESG regime, if we're going to call it that, is completely collapsing. So it's not like we're going to be under the tyranny of the government propping up corporations that do social justice-y things, even though they don't make any money. It's not going to happen forever. Like that is also coming to an end as well, along with the regular woke stuff. And yes, Arch, I see what you fucking put on the stream.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna disagree. I do not think that it is good in any way, shape, or
Service
form.
guarantees
ESG was only created for companies to try and create more profits, like the green tax, and then they added DEI. I mean, look at the response to Shift Up. Shift Up, the company behind
Heresy's the
Stellar Blade, had
question.
just gone
Fire
public,
is
and
the
Tencent
answer.
is already they already own 20% of stakes, and people are upset because the day I believe it was the same day, it was yesterday, it was announced they went public, and I did cover
Service
these in
guarantees
videos,
citizenship.
but they are already hiring ESG managers to publish reports and everything. And of course, I'm looking at this from an entertainment point of view and entertainment companies, but yeah, I mean, I do not think in any way, shape, or form that ESG is good or has done good.
Well,
Yeah,
do you think it's
I have
currently
to
on
join the
decline?
anti-dev dog pile here, because I get
Yeah.
your idea that ESG could have been used for good,
It could have been.
but I believe it was intentionally, inceptionally created as a tool for social justice, first and foremost.
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Let's see. I have to look into it.
I honestly
well,
think
here,
the
hold on.
environmental thing is an incidental additive, because anyone who's seriously looking at the energy crisis do not believe that renewable energy is the solution, because it simply isn't effective enough. We've been trying this for decades now. The only solution is nuclear, and ESG is vehemently anti-nuclear.
Is it?
Yes.
I didn't know that about it. No. I mean, yeah, nuclear is obviously the way to go in the future. But I'll have to look into it. Yeah. No, because I know that there's last time I looked into ESG, to be honest, was about 9 months ago, and I remember seeing there was 5 or 6 different wings of it, and only one of them was the DEI stuff. I mean, we all here disagree with the DEI stuff. That's not even an argument. But the other ones just seemed like, yeah. The other wings just seemed like, okay, well, if a company did this, that'd be okay. Like that's what it looked like to me. I'll go see if I can dig out what I found.
Yeah, the social wing of it is just all DEI. That's what you're referring to is the
Heresy is the question.
the
Fire is
ESG,
the
the
answer.
social kind of branch of it.
Like, in essence,
yeah,
what
here
you're
we go, here we
appealing
go,
to
I
is
got
the
it.
green part.
Kind of, yes. So yeah, on the environmental dimension, there's there's like
Heresy's the
sustainability,
question.
so like
Fire
how
is the
efficient
answer.
your organization is, and then there's like how much like what do you do with your waste and how much waste is produced. On the social, there's the diversity stuff, which we all disagree with. There's consumer protection stuff, which can usually be pretty good. I think I'm usually on the pro consumer protection side. There's animal welfare. I mean, I don't think I buy anything that abuses animals, just in general, aside from like the food. They're like whatever. But like I assume like that probably applies more to like
Service
cosmetics companies or
guaranteed
something, right? So
citizenship.
Yeah, definitely. There's a
yeah.
lot of cosmetic companies that test on animals.
But
Yeah.
see,
And then, of course,
the
clothing and things like that.
the big problem here is this kind of goes back to the ESG, the governance. Most of this is already illegal because we've already done the governance side of things. Now comes another investment firm, not a government firm, that tries to enforce its ideas upon the government via corporate pressure.
Yep.
Right. So when it comes to, for example, consumer protection, a great example that I did just pull out was Apple, because Apple is notoriously anti-consumer rights. There's no right to repair. You're stuck in their closed ecosystem. There's strict penalties on you if you jailbreak your device. And so Apple actually, for a while, had a very low ESG score because of their anti-consumer protection stuff. But as soon as the diversity stuff was brought into it, their score goes right up because they are more than happy to comply with that stuff. So it seems like there's maybe it initially started with a bunch of good ideas in this, but then as soon as they tacked the diversity onto it, everyone just used that as the easy out and then ignored all the actual good ideas because it was just easier to do.
I think the only good idea was the environmental part, which also needs to be rephrased completely. Because what we basically need to rephrase this as is pollution. Because nobody is really pro-pollution, and there are so many things we can do to reduce pollution. Nobody is going to be anti-forcing a company to place filters on their smokestacks, for example.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But then you tack on the social part. This is why the green parties across Europe have been attacking nuclear energy, because it's the same problem with the Mexican Orcs, in essence. The moment you solve the problem, it is no longer a path to power.
Right.
Yep. Power and money. Yeah, you cannot have grievance studies if there's no grievance, basically. Well, if that's the case, Arch, I mean, how come you're against the consumer protections part of it?
Because we pretty much have all the consumer protections we require
Heresy's
already.
the question.
The only
Fire
place
is
we
the
should
answer.
probably expand this is online consumer protections, as gaming companies in particular basically just ignore all of them.
Yes.
Is it different in Norway though? Because there's a lot of
Service
terrible
guarantees
consumer
citizenship.
protections in the United States.
Well, the thing is, most of this is in many ways illegal. It is just that nobody has the potential, has the time, the money, or the
Heresy's the
interest in trying to
question.
challenge
Fire
it.
is the
For example,
answer.
Steam. Steam has been challenged on their protection, the whole, the idea that you are subscribing to Steam now, that you don't actually own your games. Blatantly illegal in virtually every nation on Earth.
Heresy's the question.
But
Fire
we
is
get
the
why
answer.
they do it. They do it so they can ban people. Because if somebody does hacking, etc., or cheats in game, it's to be able to take away their Steam account without
Yes.
having it be a legal issue. And so we just sit there and go okay, hands off, we're not going to interfere with it. Now, the right to repair stuff is more complex. And hey, if you can find me the section of ESG that says we will enforce the right to repair on Apple, I'll have one positive thing to say about ESG.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm a tinkerer, right? I've done videos on how to take apart TVs or phones or whatever. I've done that if you fix a laptop, it's just kind of my thing. And I bought a Fairphone specifically because I fucking hated how every major phone company does this shit. How you can't fix your own stuff, you can't buy parts. If you even if you think about opening up your phone, you lose your warranty. They won't repair it for you if you it's ridiculous how far some of this stuff has gone. That's a different conversation, though. Sorry.
Why are you hating? Says they're trolls with jobs. Kinda. Except the trolls at least do it partially through, fun and the malice. Nathan Cassidy, do what I do. Take their post and replace whatever they are criticizing with I or my side. Post it in their replies and watch the fireworks. Orcs are racist against black people. Nightmare, Dev nearly has many Biden moments from all the pegging, but thankfully he's got a toilet nearby. Oh,
God damn it.
that's where the diaper thing comes from. I get it
The
now.
pegging, is that the new lore?
Well, the pegging's the old law, but the pooping thing. I mean, if you have a torn open anus, Dev, I imagine it'd be harder to keep it in.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make that connection before today. Thank you, Nightmare.
All the new lore is being written right now in the chat. That's how it is.
It is.
Silver Commando 78. I meant long-term profit. This Orc stuff bankrupts companies in the long run, but that'll be after they've sold all their stock. And this is a thing, Dev. Yep, absolutely. Pumping up the value of the company to then sell it off. Nicholas Quistoff.
Well,
go on.
Well, I mean, this is something we mentioned last week, Arch, is that the pipeline for creation of all this stuff is sometimes like 2, 3, 5 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the
Half a
Acolyte's been in
decade
production.
plus.
The Acolyte's been in production for 6 years.
Yeah.
So, they've been receiving some really bad financial reports for the past couple of years. And I did look up, like, the ESG stuff is going away. People are kind of like moving away from that as a marker. So that money is drying up too. It will probably be another 5 years before we start seeing truly good stuff come out of Star Wars, for example, at least.
Well, right, and that's the problem, is that it takes time. It's like they already have 2, 3, 4 things probably
Service
planned out that
guarantees
they're hiring
citizenship.
for in the works, or at least one of them, but they have like 4 laid out. And until you get through that content, there's not going to be a massive shift. Like, look at Elder Scrolls 6. That's been in development for such a long time at this point. We still don't have a release date. Imagine what they're going to do after. Well, if this game, let's say for argument's sake that it does have woke content, it's going to be another 10 years before we get the next iteration of Elder Scrolls, and we don't know what that's going to look like. It takes so much time to get these projects done and then potentially see a shift. So while companies right now, let's say that they're shifting their mentality back to what consumers actually want, it's going to be years before we actually see it.
Yep.
Elder Scrolls 6. My butthole physically clenches whenever I hear the title, because I'm so worried for that one.
I am
Starfield.
too. It's gonna be bad.
Fucking
Oh my
Starfield.
god.
If that is a preview of Elder Scrolls 6, oh my Jesus.
It was
Yep,
so disappointing.
It really was. Did you pick up one of the 3-cent copies of Starfield?
Me?
Yeah, did you hear about that?
I didn't, but I bought
Okay.
Starfield. I pre-ordered Starfield for launch.
Yeah, so did I.
Womp womp.
That was definitely okay. So, yeah, here we go. I'll post it for you, Vera, in the link channel. So this was back in January. Walmart was just throwing out all their copies of Starfield.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did see that. That's absolutely hilarious to me. It really
so-
is.
Starfield's a really bad game, but I would buy it for 3 cents. I'd shell out
mean-
3 cents for a copy of Starfield.
I didn't think it was awful. I know this is a hot take. I thought it was like a 7 out of 10. I thought it had a lot to
Really?
offer. Yeah, it just fell short in a lot of areas, like a 6.5 to a 7, because of course I live stream these games at launch. I do reviews for them. I thought it was like a 6.5 or a 7. It still had a lot to offer, and I still
Service
had
guarantees
a
citizenship.
level of fun in the game, but it technically was not sound. They pushed way too many systems and they went for quantity over quality with the systems. I still didn't think it was awful, but it also wasn't great.
I don't know if I put it at a 7. I don't know. Listen, at least it's not me who's giving takes the chat hates today. At
Yeah,
least it's not just me.
I mean, my chat makes fun of me because I am very generous with my game scores, but there are some games that I do trash. I mean, I gave Suicide Squad a 2. I gave the Gollum game a 2. I think I gave them the same score, actually, both a 2.5. But I mean, I play good games too. I live streamed Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree. That shit was a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. Yeah. See, the way I do it is like if you're 5, like 5 is like the cutoff point, right? So like if you're above 5, you're still a good game. You're still like, oh, you should get this, maybe on sale, maybe like, but a game like this, I would have to put below a 5. because it's just a game that I, under no circumstance, unless it's 3 cents, do I recommend that you buy it, right? Because it's like, and then at that point, it's like, well, how bad is it? Is it like technically deficient? Is it poorly designed? Is it unfinished like Gollum was? So, but above 5 for me is like at least a soft recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that it was awful, but my Bethesda reviews come with the caveat of they are significantly better if they have mods, like Skyrim, right? Skyrim with mods is like a 9.5. It is so amazing, but Skyrim without mods, that's rough.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The last time I played New Vegas, I used a lot of mods as well.
Yeah.
I can't play it on its own anymore.
But we also shouldn't be rating games based on what mods can do for them. So it's kind of a gray area. I thought Starfield had a lot to offer, but I also thought that it was not as good as it could have been, and it was disappointing. I mean, I still don't recommend people buy Starfield. I mean, I played through it and I didn't think it was like the worst game ever, but I still don't recommend people playing it. I think when I gave my review, I said you could spend like $15 on this and get your money's worth.
Right. See, for me, like the last company standing in terms of just producing consistent, decent stuff is Nintendo. And not everyone likes Nintendo. Not everyone likes them, but I do.
From Software.
Yep, that's true. Them as well. That's true.
They're my favorite developer. They do amazing, and sometimes they do stumble. Don't get me wrong, but they still do a lot of good work.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Yeah, for me it's Nintendo, and it's like, you know what? In a sea of like politically compromised garbage where just everything sucks, pretty much if you pick up like a Mario game or a Zelda game or a Metroid game,
you know they're going to be amazing.
Yeah, you know they're going to be good. You're going to have a good time.
Yep.
As long as you like those games already. But yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's like a refuge at this point. You know.
Yeah.
The last fortress that is still uncaptured.
Yes.
And with that, you know, I can't wait anymore. I need to see Dev defend the European Union.
Fire is the answer.
I don't know anything about this, man. I'm probably not going to defend it.
Do it, Dev. Do it.
What's going on here? Let's see.
So this was something that popped up, I think, literally yesterday, and this is a bit of a she said, he said, etc. With old Elon here saying the European Commission offered X an illegal secret deal. If we quietly censored speech without telling anyone, they would not fine us. The other platforms accepted that deal. Twitter did not.
Dun dun dun.
See, and what is that person? Was an investigator? I assume she works for the European Union.
Yes, she's one of the bosses over there, head commissioner or something or other.
Yep. So she said, in our view, X doesn't comply with the DSA in key transparency areas. It misleads users, fails to provide adequate ad repository, and blocks access to data for researchers. It's the first time we've issued preliminary findings under the Digital Services Act. Okay. So she's saying, hey, listen, you are violating this law or like not living up to these standards because of these reasons, and the reasons were misleading users, not providing data, blocking data for researchers. So that's her claim. And then his claim is, if you censor speech for us, we won't slap you with these violations. Is that basically what's going on here?
In essence.
Okay. I'd have to see. I have to look up what the DSA actually is, I guess.
It's definitely a lot of he said, she said here, which is I think the problem that I personally have. Seeing how corrupt governments are, I can believe that they offered some secret deal, but I also need to see it. I need to see something, but right now it's just Elon saying this happened.
Yeah, and I mean, Elon also has his own incentives to blow up something like this. It would look good for him. So, let's see here. Digital Services Act forms a set of rules that applies across the whole EU. 2 goals: to create a safer digital space in which the fundamental rights of all users of digital services are protected, to establish a level playing field, to foster innovation, growth, competitiveness. Okay.
Now, a little bit of the interesting thing here is that other companies have also been looked at by this.
Yes, they
Facebook
have.
and Instagram have been looked at by this, but nothing came of it. It all just kind of disappeared from the public news sphere.
That is true.
Oh.
Because I was looking this up in preparation for this, and I could find loads of examples of them looking at other companies, but not actually doing anything on it. There's been a countless little things where the EU has been looking at these companies for toxic content, for, far-right propaganda, the usual.
Yeah.
Yep, classic. I mean, I tend to believe Elon when it comes to this, but if he's telling the truth and they're offering a deal to not investigate or fine companies, people need to be kicked out of government and laws need to be changed. But, they are still, yes, going after Meta and TikTok and X. So it's not like those situations have completely gone away. And he claims that everybody accepted the deal. So it's kind of just a he said, she said, but I know a lot of people don't like Elon. That's, I'm not sitting here saying you should or should not like Elon. I do think he's done a lot of good with X as a platform. But at the same time, it's hard to believe he said, she said, especially when they're talking and using words in phrases like hate speech, right? Like, what is the definition of hate speech? What's the definition of the toxic content they're talking about? I'm going to say it. I think women smell. Is that hate speech? Like, this is a major issue.
Okay, let's see here. I pulled up at least a description of what the EU is formally slapping him with. So they said, the Commission said the interface for verified accounts and the blue checkmark was done in a way that does not correspond to industry practice and deceives users. Blue checkmarks used to mean trustworthy sources of information. Now with X, our preliminary view is that they deceive users and infringe the DSA. Okay, so because Elon started selling the blue checkmark, they're saying you're deceiving users. Okay, I mean, I get it. I understand. Is that worth hitting them with a legal thing over? Probably not, I don't think. But I understand the point. Secondly, the Commission said X is not in compliance with required transparency on advertising and did not provide a searchable and reliable advertisement repository. Okay. Third, the Commission said X fails to provide access to its public data to researchers, which is required under the DSA. So, because X is not making its data public, it's apparently a violation of European law. Okay. And then of course Elon said actually it's because we chose not to censor speech, so they're going forward with this.
Yeah, and they have continued on Meta, incidentally. Out of the social media platforms that I've seen them mention, which is Facebook, Instagram, Microsoft's merger of the AI platform, and TikTok, the only one I've been able to find them talking about again is Meta, where they claim that their subscription service, I guess, does not meet with their rules and regulations.
Right.
So it does seem as if some companies have disappeared off their radar in a very odd way. Now, it might be that they simply haven't gotten around to them yet, that they haven't completed their investigations, possibly, but it's suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
And
or the companies could have actually just like changed what they were doing. It's like, okay, we'll just change to comply with it, and it wasn't a big news story. Could have been that too.
Possibly.
Right.
But we know that there's an assload of hate speech laws in Europe. A whole lot of them. And yet these companies aren't being slapped with it. Like, you would think that Facebook and Twitter, etc., they would be in violation of EU law every single solitary fucking day.
Exactly.
So why isn't that being enforced?
Right. And, when we're talking about the commission, I just want to see a detailed study with examples of the abuse they're saying is happening. I don't think we're obviously going to get that anytime soon, but I'd really be interested to see what their definition is. I mean, going back to the blue check marks, the whole thing is really about propping up legacy media people over normal people with the check marks. Yeah, I mean, there's
Heresy is the
there's
question.
so much
Fire is
here
the
that's
answer.
so questionable with the way that they're going about this, and a lot of the statements that are being made. There's been several individuals from the commission over the past couple days on social media and Twitter/X. I hate calling it X for some reason,
I
but
fucking hate calling it X too.
I do. Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. But there have been several individuals who are basically attacking Elon Musk, saying that he is just not being truthful. And again, we don't know the whole truth, but at the same time, what he is saying is plausible.
Yeah, like this is very much so one of those things where the EU has rules against everything and anything, and yet it doesn't seem to be doing like the things it claims that it is doing as well. I did find one mention that they were opening proceedings against TikTok as well, so that is that too. Now, amusingly, they actually made it illegal to have TikTok on any of their phones.
Yeah, the government devices.
Which I think is hilarious, because, like, okay, you will not allow anyone to have TikTok on the phone on anyone within the European Commission, but you're still not sure if they're in violation of your security rules, are you? Because what they open up a check for is whether or not TikTok have breached the Digital Service Act in areas linked to the protection of minors, advertising transparency, data access for researchers, as well as risk management for addictive design and harmful content. Really? There no allegations of, I don't know, spying or data harvesting. But you don't want it on your phones.
Right, exactly. It's very suspicious.
Weird.
Yeah.
And, like, sure, you could also argue that Elon has something to gain here, as Dev does, but I don't know. Because think about this. If he is alleging this,
Service guarantees
how many
citizenship.
laws is he breaking right now? Like, you claim that the government is coming after you with secret illegal deals. You claim the European Union is doing this. How many lawsuits are you opening up to? How many legal investigations from entire countries, an entire continent, are you opening yourself up to? I don't feel like Elon would do that unless he has a little bit of a standing. I mean, you would think that the immediate response from the European Commission to this would be like, Elon Musk is clearly a liar, we'll continue with legal action against him or something.
Right, right.
I kind of view it the opposite way, actually. I think so if, like, let's say that Elon's lying here, and he knows that, like, this will, rile people up and get people on his side. So, or maybe, like, he's embellishing something, right? If he says it publicly, and there's actually there was actually no threat behind it, then it doesn't really matter, right? Because, like, you can't. I don't think the government can go after you for slandering the government. That seems to be a privilege reserved for private citizens. Like, if you say something wrong about the state's not going to sue you for slander.
Well, right.
So it's not like him saying this. If it were real, he'd be more incentivized not to say it. But if it's false, then he's more incentivized to say it.
Right. Well, we were just talking about Elon, and Elon has enough money to take lawsuits until the end of time, as long as, Tesla holds. So he obviously has a lot to lose in terms of money, but at the same time, he just seems like the type of guy that doesn't care.
Yeah.
Possibly, but again, you're making an enemy out of one of the largest supranational entities on Earth here. And I do not believe for a second that the EU doesn't have some sort of legal actions they can take against people, as we saw during the Russia thing, where they started taking people's yachts, for example. People who had no actual provable connection to Ukraine. It's just like they were connected to the Russian government, allegedly, and their property was in another country, and so just take.
Mm.
I don't know about the yachts thing, to be honest. I haven't looked into that one.
It seems like such a weird claim to make if there's no basis for it. I mean, maybe he's just assuming that people won't believe the European Union is a good organization. And hey, you know what? I don't believe the European Commission is a good organization.
Right, he must have some kind of proof. One would at least think.
It would be bold of him to release it. That would be very funny to see.
Yes.
Right, that'd be great.
I think that's what I need to see before I get on board with this. Is something more than his word.
See, the thing is, too, though, this is not going to be a contract or anything like that. This could very well easily just be Elon was at an office, and the European Commissioner comes in and is like, hey, Elon, we have an understanding here or something.
Yeah, I mean, he makes a lot of statements, but I personally believe that he must have something.
And I don't have a charitable bone in me as far as the European Union is concerned, so there's that. But it is good that Dev was able to provide us with the pro-European Union position.
How in any fucking way was that a pro-European Union position?
Well, you implied that Elon might have been less than forthcoming and honest with us.
Arch,
Yeah.
you know that he's a human, right? And he has his own incentives.
Yeah.
And he's also lied in the past. And like, do you think that just because he's politically aligned with you, he's perfect?
Yes.
That's retarded, and you know it.
If the choice is Elon Musk or the European Commission, Dev. Yes. Dev will one day understand these things. One day.
Yeah, see, like there's one guy in chat, Dev likes to sit and take daddy government. Dev supports the state. I literally asked the question, could this also be Elon lying?
Nope.
It's a reasonable question.
Nope.
And if you guys think that's me supporting daddy government,
Yep.
you need to go the fuck outside.
Just continue gaslighting Dev, everyone. Keep doing it. Eventually he'll understand.
Only do it in super chats, though.
Also, on another Twitter thing, which is just also funny that I need to bring up. Actually, two funny things. Did you see this with Assassin's Creed's Yasuke sword?
Oh, the nice Amazon One Piece duo there. The stand is from Amazon, and that's Zoro's sword from One Piece.
Yes.
I haven't seen this before. This is new to me.
So apparently, the whole Yasuke thing. So Ubisoft's position is that they've spared no expense. They've done a lot of research. They're totally sure that Black Yasuke is a good thing. They can prove it is, and so they put out like merch stuff for this, like Yasuke's sword, Yasuke's real sword. This is how it would look like, and it is a 1-to-1 copy of Zoro's sword from One Piece, straight up. The hilt, the handle, the scabbard, all of it, and it's placed on a stand that is just commonly available for purchase.
Yep. Yeah, they released this collage of images, right, to promote the game and Yasuke, and they really thought that was going to go over well with them, and obviously it didn't. I mean, the katana and stand are listed on the company's website for $40, I believe, roughly. So they really thought that this was going to go over well. And we're talking about Ubisoft here. They had previously boasted about how they had cultural, I don't remember what they called them, like cultural readers. They had historians, they had all these different people working on this game. Well, clearly they're not very good at their job if they're allowing things like this to be put in marketing material and put on social media. And it's hilarious. It really is, because they have messed up so much with this game, with the criticisms of the architecture, of course, Yasuke as a figure. Now we have the reenactment group's banners that they had to publicly apologize for so they didn't face a lawsuit. Now we're seeing this. I mean, they put in the least amount of effort possible with this game, and they're still attacking us for it. They still want us to believe, as if we're stupid, that this is good, that this is positive, that this is historically accurate, when these cultural consultants clearly do not know what the hell they're doing.
Yep, this is classic intern work right here, where somebody looked at somebody in the office and went like, hey, fetch some Japanese things. Well, I'm gonna need it for a marketing
Service
thing.
guarantees citizenship.
And they went
Yep.
on Google and Amazon. It's like, just like, okay, fuck,
Yep,
Katana.
right off Amazon. Yep.
Ubisoft just cannot catch a break
Heresy's
with
the
this,
question.
and
Fire is the answer.
they picked the wrong time too. Like, it was inevitable that if they did Assassin's Creed in Japan, it would be Yasuke, because it's the current year. They had to, but they picked the exact wrong time. Like, if this
Heresy's
had
the
been in
question.
pre-Bud
Fire is the
Light
answer.
boycott time, they might have been able to squeak past a little bit of controversy, a few people laughing at them. But now, this is a culturally relevant moment where Ubisoft goes out of their way to pick the single sole black character
Heresy's the
in the
question.
entirety
Fire
of
is the
Japanese
answer.
history. And then it just gets worse. Then you have the rap music in the background of the video. The
Oh my
Gladiator 2 trailer as well, where they put in rap music. Hey, we've got Denzel Washington. He's black, right? What do black people like? Oh, rap music. Oh, put it in the trailer. And the very fact that he's beating the shit out of Japanese people, which is just such a funny scene.
It is. It's so unsurprising, though, given the state of Ubisoft and a lot of these a lot of these companies. They're so focused on, the forced representation, that instead of writing the game that people wanted and creating new unique characters and occasionally throwing in a historical figure or two, they decided to completely throw Yasuke's actual story away because they wanted to be able to make him the lead character within this game. And we've seen so many titles that are similar release, even over just the past few years. I love Ghost of Tsushima. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And you have like titles like Rise of the Ronin, and they're not exactly the same, but they're pretty close. But when you look at something like Ghost of Tsushima and the reaction to that game versus this, it is wildly different. I mean, the developers and the producers of Ghost of Tsushima ended up becoming ambassadors for the island. And there were lots of people that, of course, supported them. A lot of, individuals now are looking at something like Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they want to convince us with this title that things are historically accurate and it makes sense that Yasuke is this full-blown samurai, but it doesn't. And now you have Japanese individuals starting petitions. You have Japanese politicians coming out and saying this is a complete disrespect to our culture. And it's just a wildly different response, where if you look at, Ghost of Tsushima, they did everything perfectly. And with Ubisoft, they are doing everything incorrectly with Shadows. And when it comes to the sales of the game, I think it's going to sell because there's so much nostalgia surrounding the Assassin's Creed name and franchise, but I do not think that this is going to be the win that they initially hoped for.
I'm not even sure it's going to sell. Like, it has created so much negative buzz, and it has become such a meme.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of mixed on it, right? Because I do think that we've seen so many titles sell just because of nostalgia, but there are ones that didn't, like Saints Row reboot, for example, that did
yeah.
not sell, even though Saints Row was a wildly popular name and franchise. So there is a chance that this will not sell. I think it's going to sell okay because there are so many people who are not on the social medias and they aren't really in the sphere, but at the same time the response has been wildly negative. So there is definitely a good chance that this is not going to sell. And with the way that things have been going with Ubisoft, I hope that this sells like crap. I hope that they don't make any money on this, but ultimately only time will tell.
Yep. It's such a stupid situation. Right,
I definitely
Service
agree.
guarantees citizenship.
Actually,
Hold
how
on a
much
second.
longer do we have you for, Vera?
How long have we even been live already? My goodness.
2 hours.
2 hours.
2
Roundabout.
hours.
Here's
How
the
long
question.
do you guys
Fire
usually
is the
go? I know that
answer.
it differs.
2 to
How long
3,
were you
depending on
thinking?
where chat takes us.
Yep.
I can go another hour for sure.
Okay.
I'm
'cause,
around.
Okay. Well, yeah. There's something else that I was trying to confirm just to make sure. So, you guys heard about? Oh, maybe you didn't hear about this. Here, I'll post this. This is the Amazon link to the book, The African Samurai: The True Story of Yasuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan.
I have not seen that.
Okay, it's like a generic history book, right? By a guy named Thomas Lockley.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I did see
So
this
it turns
actually.
out that if you dig back into the edits on Yasuke's Wikipedia page, you'll find that a lot of the edits that started coming in around 10 years ago came from an account called Totore Tom, and that's Thomas Lockley's account. So he started putting in his own research from this book under this account into the article.
Yep.
And he is the primary source of Yasuke being a samurai
Here's the
and not
question.
just like a
Fire
retainer
is the answer.
or
Yeah.
like a servant. Yeah. He's the primary source. So he's been like, for the past 10 years, forcing his own take into the Wikipedia page to make it like the cultural canon. And
Yes.
he has nothing to do with Assassin's Creed or with Ubisoft, I'm pretty sure. But the fact that this was all recently unearthed because of this, that he's been on this one man crusade to make Yasuke a samurai for 10 years now. And now it's culminated in this game that he's not really related to. But now like people have been dogpiling him and chasing him off social media.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, there was an anime a couple years ago about Yasuke, and it's not historically accurate because he's basically a samurai fighting supernatural beings, but he was, obviously a black man, and he was a full-blown samurai, and we have seen this happen over the past couple of years in entertainment. Now, newsflash, of course, not shocking. It was Netflix that did it, but yeah, I mean, it's individuals like this who are being listened to by a lot of companies, even if they're not referencing him directly or using him directly. They probably did, yes, inevitably look at the Wikipedia, and it doesn't seem like their researchers and historians did much more than that. But when you have someone, and we have proof that they were editing Wikipedias for years, it's absolute insanity.
Yeah. And actually, going back to the cultural Marxism thing from like an hour ago, when I did my video on Antonio Gramsci, one thing I noticed is that, like, when I was in university as a young lefty back in like 2007 or whatever, the professors had no problem saying cultural Marxism. It was not a conspiracy theory. It was not Nazism. It was just what they called their type of Marxism. It was Marxism that critiqued culture, and it was a normal academic term. And then, by the time like 2012 comes around, the online right notices it, and so it has to be made into this conspiracy theory, right? So you have academics in the 2010s who write papers about how it's related to Nazism, the use of this term, and then it goes into the Wikipedia article. On a Wikipedia article, if you go back 10 years, you can see cultural Marxism was just a descriptor of what was going on, and now it's this alt-right conspiracy theory, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at it, the people who are editing the Wikipedia articles are also the people who are writing the papers in academia. It's the same thing that's happening. They publish something that is official coming through university, then they go online, and then under an account that, as you dig through, you discover it's theirs. But under this account, someone says, "Hey, I saw this paper, and I guess the academic consensus is moving away from this. We should change the article," and then the articles change, and then that becomes the new cultural canon. There's definitely a wider conversation here about like the Wikipedia wars and how people are selectively using sources to try and make things that aren't neutral seem neutral.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the George Orwell quote from 1984: "The past was erased, the erasure was forgotten, the lie became the truth." And that's what that's what we're seeing happening with, Yasuke and of course many other figures. I mean, look at what Netflix did with Cleopatra. They cited it as a documentary or a docu-series, and then they had to change it to a docudrama because they realized people were so upset with them over the
Heresy's the
inaccuracies.
question. Fire is the answer.
Yep. And today's Wikipedia article on cultural Marxism, the one that pops up at the top, is literally just a pure,
Heresy's the
long
question.
left-wing
Fire is the
screed.
answer.
Not surprising.
It's quite the thing. But
Oh, by the way,
in
if you
that
go to
case-
if you go to the page Marxist Cultural Critique, that has the contents of the original page. They just changed the name of it. This is also what I mean, like earlier, like they will do the shell game with words and terms. They don't actually change the ideas. They don't ever actually address any
Heresy's
real
the
critique of
question.
ideas.
Fire
They
is
just
the answer.
make it so that it is either evil or good to say a certain word, and
Right.
and then they shuffle it around as it suits them. Yeah.
Yep.
Heresy's the question.
Let's see.
Fire
I'll
is
do
the
a
answer.
couple more super chats then, and then we'll do the last topic, big topic of the day. Actually, I'll have a couple more little quick hits too, because there's been a particularly retarded week, honestly. But first, to allow chat to know that I haven't completely forgotten about you, only partially. Nicholas Quistoff, go back to the older books. D&D used to have such an enormous variety of races. Thieflings, for instance, used to have a more variety in appearance than any other race, but now they are a template race with no variety. It's weird how as things grow more diverse, they also seemingly grow more stagnant, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Marksman 117B, remember a random white guy who admitted to not playing much D&D tweeted at Wizards that orcs were black people and the company said, "You're right."
Yep.
Gigatwin, just so people know, but Mexican-themed orcs are actually from an older D&D setting called Mystara, where orcs will copy other cultures to steal their power and success. Wizards tries to prevent this setting, to pretend this setting doesn't exist. That guy Gus, can't believe I'm doing this. Dev, here's a bit of cash. Thought you were the worst, then saw Corn Cob Jake. Good God. Talk about perspective.
Oh my God! Yeah, he's one guy who's currently jumping all over my mentions because of the HIV stuff. Holy fuck! That guy's been desperately trying to get me on his stream for like the past 6 months. Whenever he shows up, no. Whenever he shows up, he's like, "Come on, join my stream, Come on. You should join. The reason I won't, Vera, is because he tends to mass report people. and that's, like, a hard
I
line for me.
understand. I get it.
Like I talked. We spoke before the stream. For the stream started about like me wanting to debate somebody, and I'm not necessarily adverse to debates, but there are people who will sick their audiences to like try to take your accounts down.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and that's absurd.
that's too far. So like I'll never talk to Jake. I'll never talk to like Ethan Ralph or Nick Fuentes. I'll never talk to President Sunday because these guys have all like destroyed people's online careers through not because like they've argued them and then like, they've been blown out, but because they've just like mass reported them. Like, that's like a hard line for me.
Mm.
And remember, chat, Dev is only pseudo kind of communist, okay? He's the most communist person I know. But that doesn't necessarily encapsulate the full breadth of the full bread tube sphere. There are people worse than Dev.
Oh my! Yeah, so I said when I was talking about the HIV discourse, I said something like, "Listen, one of the reasons that being promiscuous is bad, and you can still be promiscuous. Like it shouldn't be banned or anything. It shouldn't be like illegal to be promiscuous. But one of the reasons why it's bad is because anytime you do something, you're not just acting on the world also acts on you. You know, you form habits and then you change as a result. Your personality changes very slowly over time. So like you can't just pursue a good goal. You have to behave in a way that you don't grow into somebody that you would hate, right? And so, and be like, what kind of person do you become if you're promiscuous over long enough time? Like, if you have a body count of 1,000 people, you know, what does that say about the person that you've turned into? And it's probably says something negative, frankly. Not all the time, obviously, but I think a large portion of the time. So I laid this logic out. You know, it's the basic virtue ethics idea of your actions will change you as much as they will change the thing that you act upon. And everyone understands habit, so we all know that this is true on some level. And he replied to that, and he said, this is a deeply socially conservative position, and it's evil. I'm just like, is that, like there's no argument here, dude. And like, it's just ridiculous. And he's like, come on my stream and talk about it. I'm just like, no, fuck you. No.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm fine with having conversations with people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people in the gaming sphere who will not have conversations with me. Like we were talking about journalists and specifically Alyssa Mercante. There have been plenty of people I have, either messaged or sent in videos or tweeted at saying, hey, listen, I would like to sit down and have a conversation with you. But these people don't want to, which I don't expect anything better from them. But when they constantly attack you, maybe just sit down with the person and actually have a normal human to human discussion. But that's not how a lot of individuals on the internet are.
Yeah. I mean, you have to thread like a needle on it though, right? Because if you go too far in one direction, then you're just like, I'm just gonna ban everyone who I don't like and who critiques me, and fuck all y'all, and you're evil, and I'm just not gonna talk to anybody, right? Like that's like Alyssa Mercante, right?
Yeah.
However, if you go too far in the other direction, then you end up in a space where I was, and Arch, you know about this. I was in the space like around 2017, 2018, where I was just letting people walk all over me because I was like, oh, I'll talk to anyone. It's like, well, that's pretty good. However, there'd be no good faith interaction at all. There would just be like, I'm just using you. I'm just shitting on you. And it's like, well, everyone can change, right? So I give them another chance. And then it would just be the same, right? Like, eventually you do have to cut people off. You have to say, you know what, that's enough. I do have some self-respect here, and I'm not just going to let you use me in this way and mistreat me. And I had to learn that the hard way. However, there's a middle ground between these two extremes, right? Where you should be willing to talk to people. However, you should also understand that some people are not coming into the conversation looking for the same thing that you are, which is
I mean, definitely agree. Yeah.
But
Dun.
Yes. What's up?
I don't know. I'd fallen off the track of the conversation because I heard a dev rant that I'd agree with come along, so I got up and did some logistic things around the house.
It's one of those times where, like, if you agree with me, you'll just, like, be silent.
Yeah.
And then, like, just kind of let it stand. If you disagree with me, then you start posting the communist images.
Yeah.
That's why the narrative's always cutting one way, Arch, when it comes to me.
Glow in the Dark. Dev, I heard some of your and V's old WoW fetish fanfic RPs. Oh boy. I'm glad V is no longer into war, I hope. Unfortunately, you seem to have embraced the eating part of the crinkle stuff.
I have no clue what this is about, dude. This is
I don't either.
I don't know what any of this is about.
It's a new chapter in the Devian lore. WoW. No, didn't you mention that he... No, Dev, I think...
What?
Maybe I am making this up. If I am, then that's good too. But didn't you mention... No, I know now. It's because you've been talking about, like, ERP from the 2000s because of your drama videos. And you're like, this is normal. Which means people now assume that you're... Dev.
ERPer in chat.
Dev.
It's more. They're just making more shit up. Okay, I understand.
Dev.
Yeah, I did mention that like the 2000s was rife with like IRC, ERP.
Heresy's the question.
Do you have a
I mean,
long
fire
history
is
of
the
this, Dev?
No.
Participated in any large organized ERP groups?
Nope.
Played
Do you
in,
play
Dev's
Final
innocent of this.
Fantasy 14?
No. Absolutely not.
played an RP server in
the
World of
question.
Warcraft?
Oh,
Fire
no,
is the
I know what this is.
answer.
Yeah, this is what it was. So I was playing on an RP server on World of Warcraft,
There
not to
we
actually
fucking
RP,
go.
just because they were like quieter and easier to connect to. I'm not actually RP.
Mhm.
No, I mentioned this last week. I was like playing in the Blood Elf starting zone, and then there was like a Blood Elf woman who was like lying on the ground RPing, giving birth as I like walked by.
Oh
And I
my.
was like, Jesus, okay,
Mm.
that's what this is from. Yeah.
I never got super into World of Warcraft, but I love MMOs. And so, believe me, I've seen my fair share of questionable RP out there.
Don't let him fool you, chat. Dev was the woman.
No.
Maranga 2, public announcement for chat. Eamon lied on side scrolls. The lawsuit is public, loathsome as GW is. This time they're not morally wrong. I did look a little bit more into that, and it does look weird. It's true. Nathan Cassidy, Gary Nerdrotic, has talked about the writers who were so bad at their jobs they went uncredited for writing Star Trek Beyond. They sucked so much nobody wanted to blame them for their failures. Why did you make the episodes then? God damn it. Silver Commando 78. A guy whose favorite movie is Schizophreniac, the whore mangler, is lecturing about what makes a good story and how to assemble it with themes properly.
Yes. Okay. Listen. We need to sit down, and you're invited if you want, Vera. But we need to sit down and watch Schizophreniac, the Horror Mangler.
Dev.
Uh-oh.
It's the best movie I've ever seen.
Is it really?
It is. It is, dude. Okay, hold on. Here, just wait. Just wait. I'll put a couple of images
Service
that are safe for
guarantees
work because a lot of the movies
citizenship.
not safe for work. But I'll put them in. I'll put the safe for work ones in the link channel. Look at this incredible movie. Look at that.
Oh, that looks like very high quality.
We're just gonna ignore Dev chat. Don't worry about it. Marksman of Hun 17B. Current writers are like cargo cults. Bad Dev. Down. Psst. Glow in the Dark. ROP crashing and burning is an artwork. It is. It's very good. Artemis Fowl. Ballsack armor and Black Queen Dwarf. Entertainment has given us some
Oh.
great things.
Yeah, Rings of Power. That's a Witcher, right? With
Yep,
the ball sack
Ballsack
armor.
armor.
My God, that's awful. What were they thinking?
I don't
You know,
know. That it looked disturbing.
First of all, that was a pretty good AVG impression. Secondly, I think the dwarves are probably the best part of Rings of Power.
Acting wise, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I just hate the fact that she's wrong on every way. She's a great actress and she does a great job with the role, but she's a beardless black dwarf in Tolkien. It's like,
No, I think like one of the bright spots of that show was Elrond and Durin's friendship.
I can't wait for Durin and Eldron to kiss. Woo!
They're gonna make him gay. That's what they're gonna do next.
Probably.
Silver Commander 78. I love mob movies, and I think The Irishman... The Irishman is the best. I don't even think Irish people are human.
Whoa, too far.
He who wants to know, SCWs and corpos only grasp surface level stuff. In large part, yes, unless it's political, in which case they'll go in depth. Glow in the Dark, there's a lot of talent in Hollywood and most entertainment industries. I know, they can make good stuff. Kind of perfect time for it now. Cold War on the horizon, economic trouble, social upheaval, basically the 80s. Be still my beating heart. Actually, okay. That's a perfect segue to our last, like, big serious topic. Alright. MrBeast announcing his run for president.
Jesus. You know, this is the future. That's the scary part.
A YouTuber who's a president one day.
Well, yeah, one day they're gonna all be old enough, and then we're gonna see which ones actually run, and then it depends on how relevant they still are, but I'm sure there's still gonna be some of them that are gonna be relevant at that age, and then who knows the monstrosities that we're going to see.
So, like, here's the thing. MrBeast is popular primarily because of outrageous video titles and because he hasn't got an entire crew of people massaging the algorithm. I'll be very surprised if he's relevant in 3 or 4 years' time. I will actually be shocked, and good on him if he is.
I don't agree with that at all.
I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, because I feel like, yes, he is super relevant right now, but at the same time, I don't know if 3 to 4 years is a fall off period. If you had said like a decade, sure, I don't think he's going to be relevant in a decade, but I think that this is going to, I think that his type of content is going to be around for a very long time. And look at the people in our sphere, right? Social media influencers like Jeremy Hambley from The Quartering's old enough. Melanie Mack is old enough. And it's hilarious to see because there are so many people. Now, of course, you have to be super relevant, like the size of MrBeast. Like, I just don't know, though, if... Well, let me rephrase, okay? I know a lot of his audience members are very young and very impressionable. But the thing is I don't know if in 10 years when he would be able to run it, it's like 9 or 10 years, if that audience would also still, number one, follow him, but 2, have the same opinions as him.
Well, there's the thing. So I think his style of content is one of those styles that happen and are relevant for 2 to 3 years, like the prank culture, which was everywhere for a while.
Yeah.
But the thing is, MrBeast is clearly an incredibly talented content creator, but I also think he's retarded. I think he's just stupid. And I'll prove it to you. If I were president, I wouldn't care about party lines. I'd just always truly make the American people my own #1 priority. For problems I'm ignorant in, I'd have experts from the left and the right advise me on them and try to find the middle ground that's best for America.
I mean,
sure.
There's so much there that's ignorant of
There is so much.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through this, and I have many objections. Wouldn't be viable. Don't care about doing things just because my party says I should. And I would focus on uniting the country instead of dividing it. Anyways, we can pick this up 15 years when I'm old enough to run. This entire block of text.
He's not 20, is he? Because it'd be 35.
No,
35.
He's 9 years away.
Okay, yeah.
Like, this entire block of text reads like this person has never even heard the word politics in their life. Like, they have a periphery knowledge of what the word theoretically entails, but that's it. It's like,
I also think the comments are hilarious. Hold a battle royale for VP.
Yes.
I think that's just so funny.
I mean, hell, even Love's Warfare has a great one. Okay, so what's the middle ground between universal healthcare and not universal healthcare?
I mean, there's actually an answer to that. It's called a system that has both public and private elements, which is ideal, by the way.
Well, partially.
That person assumes like a lefty. They don't fucking understand what's going on.
Well, the thing is, if you have universal healthcare, the only role for private healthcare, because this is Norway's system, is basically superior service.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
And that's not really a middle ground, because the left-wing advisor is going to go, that's unfair.
Well, fuck him.
But that's the thing. His entire thing is, I'll take experts from the left and the right. There is no middle ground between a left-wing expert and a right-wing expert on universal healthcare.
No, there's not.
Then only get centrist experts. That's what you do. Only hire enlightened centrists for everything you do.
You're starting to sound like MrBeast too.
So, well, here's the thing, right? Like, He says, "I don't care what party lines. I'll just always truly make the American people my number one priority." That's a great way to not get elected, right? Because you need the support of a party to get elected. Because the party
Yes.
it does all the on the ground stuff of like bringing people out to vote and going around knocking on doors and like support of local leaders. Like you need the party behind you if you're going to be elected for president. It's just simple as that.
Right.
And the party's not getting behind you if you don't care about the party. That's just how party politics works. The idea of getting experts from the left and the right to advise him, I mean, most presidents already try to do that. He's acting like they don't. The issue ultimately is that one is that experts aren't always right all the time. And two, sometimes you get into a particularly partisan era, like right now, where if a left-wing guy is in power, the right-wing experts will not help him, and then vice versa as well. And we've seen that. We saw it with Obama. We've seen it with Trump, and we've seen it with Biden. It's happened in all 3 eras, or all 3 terms. So, like that's like this idea that he would just be able to get experts from the other side, whatever side it is, to help him. It's not going to happen, right? Let's see what else.
Well, even let's assume that he does, right? What you're telling me then, MrBeast, is that you will be a puppet president, and whichever expert spoke to you last and most convincingly is the path you're going to take.
Yeah.
Why the fuck do I need you for the job?
Right. I mean, MrBeast has probably never even heard of Machiavelli, the man who created political science. He's probably never even heard of him. So he's just yapping on social media to his younger and impressionable audience who thinks this sounds amazing and that he's going to create some amazing situation if he was president. Like that's not how it works. That's not how politics are.
You know, absolutely. And again, this one topic alone, we could probably go for an hour on. Because, okay, you've now got an expert from the left and the right, both of which are PhDs, right? They're fucking brilliant people. They are going to throw so many terms and ideas at this guy that his little head is going to fucking bubble over. Like, the entire point of an expert is to give you their point of opinion, a point of view. But if you are literally not well enough educated on what he is saying, you're not going to understand a fucking thing. It'll be like sitting there and having Deb talk to you about cultural Marxism and safe horny. It's like, the tutorial will be 6 hours long.
That's happened a few times where, like, no offense to any guests or anything, but we had some people come in who were, like, not super politically educated. And it's been like, here's what's going on. And they're just like, oh.
I talked to Craig and Blabs on the Science Girls for about an hour on the very most boiled down basics of Gramsci I could come up with as an explanation for why we're here.
Service guarantees citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's even scratching the fucking surface of everything you could go with that. I didn't even really touch on intersectionality and Kimberly Crenshaw and oh Jesus.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I've said.
Fire.
I said this in my Everything Normal is Right Wing Now video. That Craig is he's a journalist. He's not a political science guy, which is fine. Everyone has their expertise, right? Like it's not an indictment against him. It's just that this is kind of outside of his wheelhouse. He knows more about journalism than I do, that's for sure. Let me see here. There's all So Arch, going back to what you said before, you can't even for a president, you can't be an expert on everything. So you do have to rely on experts at some point, but you have to have at least enough baseline knowledge to be able to keep up with what the experts are saying. That's important.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And then I'm just trying to because the criticisms you're laying out, you can actually technically apply to any leader ever, but there has to be you have to have at least enough knowledge so that even if you're talking to experts who know more than you, you know what they're advising.
Yes.
And so you have to be like very knowledgeable on like a whole bunch of different topics. But then you also have to have like a pretty solid moral code that will direct you even in times of an uncertainty.
100%. But this is the problem, MrBeast, is he's preaching a utopia that isn't real. He's preaching about how he wants there to not be this political divide. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and again, he's just ignorant. I love the part also where he says, oh, I wouldn't be buyable. All right, so MrBeast is worth a lot, highest estimate I could find, $1.5 billion. He's like, oh my God, that's so much money. I could never be bribed. You have no fucking inkling of the amount of money that runs a government. 1.5 billion is a rounding error in the budget of not of a city, never mind a state or the country.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
you're not buyable? You haven't seen the fucking price tag, son.
Nope.
Well, to be fair though, I mean, he kind of isn't. Like you could offer him a shit ton more. Like, you could offer him $100 billion. That's way more than 1.5 billion. But at some point, the money becomes like just meaningless almost.
Well,
And that's
there's the thing.
Now that depends on your own personal morals, right? Because
Yeah.
you could have somebody who's very morally upstanding who has like $1 million or $1 billion, and it's like, you know what, you could triple my money, and I still wouldn't do it because I have enough. I'm good, you know. So like it depends. It really depends.
Let's put it like this. What's the
Okay.
best way to make money be worth a lot
Service
more?
guarantees citizenship.
I don't know. Fill me in.
To take
What are you
it the
thinking?
fuck away from you.
Okay, so it's not going
Yeah.
to be a bribe. They're gonna take it away from him.
Well, yeah, it's like, look at how much of Trump's total value has fallen whilst he's been president. And Trump has what 3-4 times the net value. He was worth like $4 billion going in.
Let's see. I'm gonna look it up. Trump's current net worth is 5.3 billion.
Whew.
Jesus.
Let's see.
It's a lot of money.
I want to see how much he's lost because I'm sure he's lost some recently.
Oh yeah.
Service
I was trying to look up,
guarantees
like, because
citizenship.
I know he's lost value, because I saw that during the president. I don't know the last 4 years.
Well, I think to become president, you have to divest any holdings you have in various companies. So like he owned like part of the various Trump companies, so he like gave those to his kids. You know.
Yep. I'm trying to find like a graph or something simple, but the internet is not helping me right now.
Never does when you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't find anything easy, but like with all of the lawsuits being thrown at him, with all of that stuff costing money, with all of the, the constant attention that he is getting, and his companies, and the convictions, and so on.
Here, Arch. I got something, but it only goes up till 2017.
Yeah, where you see like a big dip when he announces the presidential candidate run.
No, it actually goes up a bit.
Yeah.
Well, it goes up for like a year, and then it goes down to 2017 there.
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah. Okay. Here's one that goes till 2021, and basically he peaked in 2016, and then he kind of went down and plateaued.
Yep. So it would be a
Service
lot
guarantees
easier
citizenship.
to ruin MrBeast than it would be Donald
Oh
Trump.
yes. 100%.
Though to be fair, I have a feeling MrBeast might keep his nose a bit cleaner than Trump did.
Potentially.
Like I who truly knows, because you can't know a YouTuber unless you meet them.
Well, right,
But
and he
Mr.
is
Beast-
relatively young.
Yeah. I have a feeling MrBeast is not gonna have a scandal where he had sex with Stormy Daniels and then paid for it with campaign money.
see.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm immediately going to leap on Vera's point that he's young. He's a young,
Yeah.
stupid, rich person.
He hasn't made any major fuck ups yet, but
That
he's
we
young
know
and
of.
right. He's
Fire is
he's
the answer.
fucking rich.
He's rich and young and dumb. Like, maybe he's just a really good guy, and I hope that's true.
And he's
part of
got
me-
Google behind him.
Yep, but a part of me feels like we're a few years away from a DrDisrespect moment, or really bad.
Maybe.
so
You know
Oh
what?
my
What would
God.
be really fun? Okay, I'm gonna just say one word to describe what could be the fall of MrBeast, right? To give you a scale of what I'm saying here. Boogie.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
Now, I hope not, but I'm just saying. These people tend to be great people until you learn about the thing.
Right. They're great people while it's hidden until it's unhidden, and then you find out the truth.
Yeah, I mean, Boogie. Here's the thing: like, Boogie has scandal after scandal after going back like 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
Boogie is not at all a clean person. I mean, there are some YouTube. They seem to be few and far between, frankly. But there are some YouTubers who kind of keep their noses clean and have no legal dramas or no like crimes committed or something. You know.
I
Me,
saw a
I'm the only
list.
one.
To be fair, all of us here, like we've had like personal dramas, right? Like audiences have come after us, or people try to cancel us. Like that's all happened, sure. But like in
Well, yeah.
terms of like legal dramas, no.
Right.
Like IRL things, no. Like we're all pretty clean here.
I saw a list on Twitter, which I definitely can't dig up now, but it was like just like all of the internet personalities that had drama this year. It was a long list.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Like the DrDisrespect thing was one of the big ones. I'm guaranteeing he's really regretting not taking that kick deal right now.
Yeah, his statement was also very questionable.
Oh yeah, he was in a hole and he decided
Editing
to
it,
grab a
holy
shovel.
shit.
Yeah, the editing was fucking insane. Thinking he could edit it out and no one would notice. That right there was that right there was it.
Okay, so I haven't like had a direct line to the quartering for a few years now, ever since he kind of like drifted out of Sargon's group. Like I'm still friendly with him, but like I haven't talked to him. The quartering was he actually like sticking by? Like, do you guys know if he was sticking by DrDisrespect? It seemed like he was for a minute there, and I was like, Jeremy.
Well, the thing is he initially reacted with firm handshakes to the edited post. He did not know that it was unedited.
Okay.
And he has stood by. I wouldn't say he stood by DrDisrespect, but the innocent until proven guilty that a lot of people like myself stand by, because we haven't seen any chat logs, and this is a major issue. And obviously, he's not supporting
Service
DrDisrespect
guarantees
anymore, but he
citizenship.
has said similarly to many people, myself included, that we want to either see chat logs or not have articles published on these major websites like Bloomberg of he
Heresy's the
said,
question.
she said,
Fire
and that's
is the
the issue
answer.
with the DrDisrespect situation. Now, obviously, what he did, and he admitted it. He admitted he talked to a minor, so that right there is kind of the end of the story. But when it comes to it, yeah, I mean, I completely understand that people want to see chat logs or hear something besides he said, she said by journalists like Slasher who are not to be trusted. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't really stuck by him anymore. Honestly, I haven't seen a lot, if really any people, just generally standing by him, because he did admit it and then he edited it. And he did word it in specific ways, like, no like legal wrongdoings and were found and things like that. But I don't think he is going to magically come back and everything's going to be hunky dory. And the creators that were initially saying innocent until proven guilty have kind of backed off simply because he did admit it and then tried to hide the minor part, which was not a good look for him.
Yeah, this was a moral failing, because I agree too.
Yes.
Like, theoretically, if you have a conversation with a minor and you didn't know because it's on the Twitch thing where you need to be 18 plus, etc., and the conversation is something like, "Hey, see you at TwitchCon." Yeah, sure. All right, fine.
Right. Is that what they're talking about? Or is there more? We don't have details because we
Yes.
haven't seen anything.
And if I was DrDisrespect and that was what would happen, you better fucking believe I would be releasing those logs, which is why I'm thinking that maybe it was a little bit more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree,
Yep.
because why else would he not release them instantly to prove? Because everyone would, well, I wouldn't say everyone, but all the people that were initially supporting him would still be supporting him.
Yes. And the thing is, too, like, this isn't even necessarily a legal thing, because, yes, there should be a police investigation. If nothing illegal has been found, then fair. But there is a point at which you are cancelable, reasonably so, that is not illegal. Having an inappropriate conversation with a minor over a messaging app, I don't know if that's illegal. I haven't tried yet, so, give me a break, I guess.
Yet?
You never know. You never know.
Art,
FBI,
don't, you're gonna
check
get
his
clipped.
computer.
But I don't even know what the rules are around that. Like, is sexting minor illegal? I don't know. But
Well, an issue
let us
here is
assume,
the
for
fact,
shits and giggles, that it isn't, right? That is still inappropriate. And it is okay to cancel someone from your, sponsorship deals for being inappropriate with a minor.
Yeah,
Right.
even if it's not illegal. Yeah, obviously.
Dev should demand proof she was coerced. They can't prove a negative. That's right, Dev. You haven't heard the government state on this yet, so...
Or the chat's still going on with the Stormy Daniels comment.
Ah.
Well, because here's the thing: like, someone at some point dug up a letter that she signed years ago saying that she never actually had sex with Trump, and then she came out later and said, "Listen, I was coerced by Trump's team into signing that." And it's like, well, okay, fair enough. Which one of those two is the letter true? Because that's her own words, or is her saying she was coerced true? Because that's also her own words. Either way, you're taking her own word at it, right? So the way I view it is discard the letter entirely and just look at the other evidence. But that apparently makes me completely irrational and deranged and incapable of any critical thought whatsoever. Thanks, chat.
Thanks, chat. Without you here, Dev would be getting away with a lot of his communism. We gotta be careful about that. It's very important. Alright, so the MrBeast thing, we're mostly over that. See, this is exactly why we have age limits, because a 35-year-old wouldn't
Service
be like,
guaranteed
yeah, I'll just
citizenship.
listen to the experts, because he will have been yelled at in his life more times. Oh, boy. Oh, by the way, on other news, Disney has been hacked, so I'm looking forward to finally seeing those pedos child smuggling logs that I was asking about last time they got hacked.
Can't say I'm surprised that they were hacked yet again.
I'm hoping something nice and juicy will come out of this one.
Potentially. It's going to be a while, though, I'm sure, before we actually get it all sorted.
Will be. Oh yeah, there was apparently a lot of data, and most of it's going to be just dumb
Service
shit,
guarantees
undoubtedly.
citizenship.
But
Yeah.
hopefully there'll be something good in there. And just because Artemis told me to bring it up, apparently furries hacked the
Heresy's the question.
the Heritage Foundation,
Fire is the answer.
which was
Oh,
the
yes, I've
Project
heard about
2025, which was supposedly the plan to make America fascist again. And apparently it was a Chinese op or something.
Those darn furries. At it again.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. Sounds too stupid to be true to me, but who knows? See, Dev bases his worldview of whether or not the government tells him. I base mine on whether or not it sounds stupid.
Service guarantees citizenship.
No, god damn it.
I don't know, Dev.
So yeah. When it comes to the Project 2025 thing, like, I know a lot of leftoids on Twitter have been like freaking out about it. Like, Trump's gonna. This is what Trump wants to do. And I mean, to be fair, there are a bunch of people who are part of Trump's inner circle involved in it. So it's like, fair enough. I understand. But then, like, Trump came out and said, yeah, that's actually not my plan. That's just some other people's plan. And I appreciate the input, but I have my own plan. And I think it's called Agenda 47. I think it's called. You can go look it up. And then, yeah, the hack kind of revealed, like, oh, it's just China.
God, if I was
China's
Trump, I would
China's
call
behind
it Agenda 666.
Oh my god.
Something. Yes. Actually, one less 6. Order 66. That's the one, yes. That would be the perfect one. Purges. Purges must happen. Of the furries, too, apparently. Otherwise, they'll hack it and reveal it. Oh, well.
Oh, I mean, since we do have, like, 10, 15 minutes left, do you want to quickly talk about what happened with our good old friend... Was it Alec Baldwin? Was it Alec or Adam Baldwin?
Ooh, Alec,
yeah.
Baldwin. Alec.
So
Yeah.
his case got tossed out.
I can't fudging believe it.
Really?
Okay. He's famous.
I mean, okay, I can. I mean it as, like, I can't believe that this is the end. The end
What
of
do you
it
mean?
all.
That it just
Well,
got
because
tossed out?
well,
go
yeah,
ahead,
because
sorry.
it got tossed out and it's over. Like, this is
Well,
the ending that we ended up getting. We got Helena, she got no justice out of this.
Helena was the person that he shot, right?
Yes.
Well, no, didn't the armor go away for like years? Hold on, let me look it up.
Yes. I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly how long though.
Let me just look this up. Yeah, Alec Baldwin shooting. Surely it's. Of course, yeah, the Rust shooting incident. 2020, that was 3 years ago, 2021, this happened. Okay, Jesus.
Yeah.
Time flies, man.
Yes, it does.
Okay, let's see. The criminal charges, investigation, prosecution.
I mean, we're never going to know the exact story. We're never going to know exactly all of the details of if he really was innocent or not. But I mean, it is primarily the armorer's fault.
Yes. Arch, you know the story here? You know what happened with this?
Yep, Alex Baldwin killed the dude.
Yeah.
So it was during filming Rust, and
Heresy
he was
is the
given
question.
a gun
Fire is
for
the answer.
for the shot, and it was supposed to have a blank in it. It didn't have a blank in it. It had a live round in it, and he shot the person he was aiming it at.
Yeah.
And so people said that, like, well, he shot her, so he should be going to jail.
Right, and he can't be retried now.
Yeah. Well, the issue ultimately, though, is that it does come down to being the armorer's fault, right? Because
Yes,
the procedure for this sort of thing is that the armorer clears the gun. The armorer makes sure that there's no actual live ammo in the gun. That's their job. And then hands the gun. And they use real guns on these shoots because they just look more realistic. So then once the gun has been cleared and verified cleared, then is handed off to the actor, who then performs the scene.
Yes.
So it's ultimately the armorer's responsibility. So I had a feeling that Baldwin was gonna kind of beat these charges. It seemed like it was the armorer's fault and not Baldwin's.
Yeah.
However, I think it came out during the trial that the prosecution massively fumbled the case.
Yes,
Something like
they
that.
did.
And like, yeah. So what was the details on that?
According
I
to
don't...
Buckymus, who just super chatted, his case was tossed because the defense stated that the prosecution didn't hand over all relevant bullet evidence. The
Yes.
prosecution denies the evidence is relevant to the case, but the judge was sympathetic to Alex.
Yes.
Well, that's actually a big fucking deal, though. Like, you have to hand over all
Oh yeah,
evidence during
it
discovery.
definitely is a big deal.
It's still... But here's the thing, though. Isn't it still involuntary manslaughter? At least.
I mean, I don't know. Is it?
You'd think so.
I mean, well, wouldn't it be manslaughter by the armorer and not by the person who actually held the gun, because they didn't know? You know, they didn't have the appropriate mens rea.
Possibly, but it is negligence. Because, you know, the gun is supposed to be safe, but you still probably shouldn't point a real weapon, at a person, and then pull the trigger for shits and giggles.
Well, sure. Here, let's put it like this. Let's say you're shooting a movie, right?
Heresy's the question.
Actually, well, no, hold on.
Fire is
We'll
the
do two
answer.
examples just to make it real quick. So in one example, you're driving your car around, Arch, and you go park and go into the store, and then you forget to put your parking brake on, and the car like rolls down the hill and like kills someone, and you didn't mean to do that, but you were clearly being negligent, right? And you should be held accountable for that crime.
Right.
The second option is, like, let's say you're shooting a movie, and the movie requires a car to roll down a hill and hit someone, and so you park at like the top of a hill, and then as an actor, you make sure that, like, you know, the car's doesn't have the parking brake on, and then the car rolls. And now at the bottom of the hill, there's like a staff who makes sure, hey, make sure no one's actually there, so we can get the shot of the car rolling down the hill, and no one's actually in the path to get hit by it, and that's their responsibility. And now they didn't do that, and then there was somebody at the bottom of the hill, and they get hit by the car.
Yeah, but
No,
that is a lack
in that
of
case-
action. Because he didn't do anything then, except what it instructed. But in this case, Alec did point a gun at the person and pull the trigger, which is an active action.
That's what he was instructed to do. That's what he was instructed to do, though. Like in both cases, he's instructed to.
No, he
either
wasn't
put the
instructed to
car
do it.
in. Well, hold on. Either you're instructed to put the car not in park, then get out and let it roll, versus hold the gun up and shoot. Those are both a series of instructions you have to do for the shot.
Yeah, no. This was not as a scene, as far as I can understand. From what I remember of this case, this wasn't a part of a scene. This was them joking around.
No, I'm pretty sure it was part of a scene.
No, I'm pretty sure it was part of a scene.
Was it? Then maybe this wasn't the new thing. But I
Heresy's
heard
the
about this
question.
originally. I
Fire
think
is
it
the
was
answer.
the allegation that he was joking around or something. But if it was part of a scene, then that's different.
Let's see here.
Heresy is the question.
Says it was
Fire is
in
the
production,
answer.
on-set shooting. It says while he was practicing using the revolver.
Ah. Practicing using the
Yeah.
revolver.
Yeah, so they weren't filming yet, but they were going through like the everyone gets their marks and like we're gonna run the scene once before we actually turn the cameras on kind of thing.
Well, practicing. Either that or he was simply just practicing, like, drawing it and shooting it, like practicing a scene, and then somebody walked in front of him, or he did it in front of somebody, or whatever.
Yeah,
Service
but going
guarantees
back to what you were
citizenship.
saying about the car, but the problem is a car is not a weapon. A car is like a tool. A gun is a weapon.
I mean, yeah, but cars are considered weapons all the time for the law. Like if you hit someone with a car, it's
Yeah.
considered, like killing with a weapon, you know.
I still
doing
think
trying to
he's a
find-
bad person and should have gone to jail.
He is.
Just for
I
fun.
agree. Well, the armor.
Listen, he's in
only-
Hollywood.
My-
He's in
my
Hollywood. He has to be bad on
guts.
some level.
Dev, my little belly tells me Alec Baldwin should have gone to jail. That's good enough for me.
Well, the
See, I-
armor only got 18 months. I feel
That's fucking
like
ridiculous. That's
yeah,
fucking
that
ridiculous.
is. I feel like that right there is ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
18 months is not enough.
I do like that whenever Arch and I like argue down through the facts to the core of a conversation, and it turns out that Dev is right. Arch is like, but my gut feels like it's wrong. Dev.
Well, we haven't arrived at any Dev is right here. We've arrived at Dev has come up with a scenario.
Hold on, I want to see. Yeah, okay. The events. Let's read the events here. 12th day of filming. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so no, this shit happened. I forgot about this part. Yeah, the reason that there was even live bullets in the gun in the first place is because other crew members were taking the guns and shooting them for fun because they were bored, and then brought the guns back to the set, and then the armor didn't clear them properly.
Heresy.
But
the
that
question.
doubles it,
Fire
though,
is
because
the
if
answer.
Alec Baldwin knows that the guns have been used with live rounds, he should definitely not have been pointing them at people.
He might not have
Right.
known.
He
Yeah,
might not have known. But you
Because
know what,
that is the
Dev?
responsibility of the
You
armor.
know what
yeah.
my tum-tum tells me, Dev?
What does it tell you, Arch?
That he would have
Fire
heard
is
the
the
loud
answer.
bang-bangs at night as the staff was amusing themselves.
Does it tell you that you need to get your pastry soon?
No, it's too many super chats before that. But my tum-tum tells me the man is probably a murderer.
Okay, hold on. Let's see here. I'm reading it. Oh yeah, that's right. No, the armorer tried to like tamper with shit after the fact. That's fucking right. What a piece of shit that person was.
See?
Yeah,
Chat
that
right
part
there.
is crazy.
Sharp stick, he has a cat picture, which means that he is relevant at all times, and says, basic rule of gun safety, it's always loaded. Checkmate, Dev. The
Yeah,
government
I
can't
mean
protect you now.
it's still
Hold on, it's different.
negligence.
Though. It's different. It's different when you're on a set though.
No, is it?
Because the idea of an armor is that they're supposed to check if it's loaded or not, right? And in fact, no. In fact, it has to be that way
Shifting
because like
responsibility, Dev.
Well, no,
Personal
hear me out.
responsibility, Dev, is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
good.
I get it. Hear me out there. Okay, so like let's say let's say the armor clears a gun properly and then hands you a gun as an actor, and then you decide to clear it yourself. So you open it up and you take a look. Well, at that point, like if you fucked up and there
Service
somehow is actually a bullet in there,
citizenship.
maybe you're being duplicitous and you put a bullet in there. Now the armor has to come over and clear it again because the armor has to be the last person to look at it because
Well-
it's their job on the line.
Yeah, and that. I mean, a gun is always a weapon, like you were talking about with the car. A car is a tool. It's still not the same. A gun is always a weapon, though, and that's why these people always need to check through them and make sure. And it seems that on set, that just wasn't the case. There were no safety procedures that were gone through when they should have been. Just because you checked at the, let's say, start of the day, 5 hours later, you still need to check again before it's in the actor's hand, and that didn't happen.
I agree with you there. Yeah. I think at the very least we're all in agreement that the armorer fucked up, like royally. Like this
Yes.
was the armorer's fault in my view.
I mean, clearly
I'm
no one
just-
was following firearm safety.
I'm just not sure if it was Alec's view, Alec himself.
Artemis
I do know there-
Fowl
I-
also
I know-
drives me to say,
Okay.
I don't know why Goyam, that's probably you, Dev, keeps blaming the armorer.
What?
There were live rounds in Alex Baldwin's belt. If the armorer did their job correctly, then Alec Baldwin loaded the round himself, Dev.
That's the point though, is that the armorer didn't do their job correctly.
Yeah, but Dev, the point you brought up, where he
Mhm.
might have been duplicitous and put a bullet in there, saying like I blame it on the armorer.
Service
Sure,
guarantees
yeah, that's possible.
citizenship.
You just need evidence for it, though.
Evidence, Dev. I don't know. My belly, Dev.
Arch's like, evidence. The bane of this fucking podcast is evidence.
Service guarantees citizenship.
The state.
Mercenary just super chatted $2. Went on said everyone has to check by law. Everyone, that's not true. That's not true. I know for a fact that's not true.
Heresy
So
is
I looked into this
question.
back when it happened.
Fire is the
By
answer.
law, everyone does not have to check. The armor is the one who is legally liable.
I don't know, Dev. I think that Alec Baldwin may have been promiscuous with his gun, and that he should have had better standards. Instead of pointing
Maybe so.
cleared weapons at people and clearing the trigger, he should have been the person he wanted to be, Dev, instead of an involuntary manslaughterist.
I get the joke, Arch. I understand.
Good.
But no, like there are instances in which you can't be the one to personally check on the safety of a thing. Someone else has to do it. And in fact, if you step in and personally check on the safety of a thing, you might have tainted it, and then now the actual person has to come in and check again, right? Like this is a sort of thing you see in like industrial situations as well, where it's like, hold on, it's not your responsibility to do this. It's someone else. Even though like you have an interest in seeing it done, it's not your responsibility. It's someone else's, and they have to do it. It's like I understand the logic. So I'm not sure if Alec
Heresy's
is.
the question.
But here's the
Fire
thing.
is the answer.
Like it didn't even get to that point in the trial because it was
Right.
it was a technical fuck up, wasn't it?
Yes. Well, it
Right,
was
yeah.
it was
was the-
Hold
what,
on
how would they
evidence
say
there.
they hid evidence,
Heresy's
right? The
question.
prosecution.
Fire is the
Hmm.
answer.
Suddenly, the conspiracy theory brain begins to whir in the background yet again.
Let's hear it. Let's
The
hear it, Arch.
prosecution decides to not hand over evidence in clear violation of all legal codes, making the judge dismiss the lawsuit. Or the
Oh, it was
trial.
planned. He purposely did not comply with discovery.
Yes,
Oh, and the
Dev.
reason why is because the prosecution actually
Heresy's
hated the person that
question.
was killed.
Fire is the
Yes,
answer.
well, no,
Like they were like high school
Or
lovers,
Alex
and
Baldwin
he was
just bribed
spurned.
them.
He was spurned, and
Alec
so
Baldwin went
it's
up
like,
to the prosecutor and was like, "I'm going to show up at your kid's wedding. You just get this. Just make this disappear."
And now Alec Baldwin gets a TV show.
Service
Congrats
guarantees
to him, I
citizenship.
guess. They're doing that reality TV show. I guess that's what happens.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Damn.
they are. Yeah.
Just as planned, Dev.
Just as
Service
planned.
Right.
guarantees citizenship.
Kakakudori desu ne.
Oh man.
How did we
Well-
get onto this topic? Oh,
something
Dev,
else
this
happened
was your
today.
fault.
Yeah. It was something else that happened today that would be fun to
Citizenship.
talk about.
All right. Well, Vera, whenever you need to go, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I've got maybe like 5 more minutes, but then I'll be out of here. Unless this is a good segue.
I'll just start
Well-
reading Super Chats, and whenever people need to leave,
Yep. We are getting close to my time too as well, Arch. So
Dev.
you'll be left by on
We
your
started
lonesome.
an hour early, which means you have an extra hour.
I usually stay till like 6 anyway.
Oh.
I usually stay for like 2 hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2.5, you know.
Yeah, 2.5.
Well, you know what? Maybe this is a good time for me to dip out before you start reading super chats. So, yeah, I guess I'll get going in just a second.
All right. Thank you very much for coming on today, Vera. It was fun.
Yeah. Thank
was
you
fun.
for having me on, chat. If you don't know, Vera Dark Titan Media. I'm nearly at 100K here on YouTube.
Nice.
I live stream 25, 30 hours a week. I do 2 to 3 videos a day. I'm a gaming live streamer and an entertainment commentator. So go and check out my channel.
And soon to be a frequent guest on the ArcCast, judging by
Yeah,
today's performance.
hopefully. Yeah, hopefully.
Arch is like, now you have to.
Yeah, I'm down. I'm
You know,
down.
I have
But,
come to the conclusion that I can peer pressure women into appearing quite often on the channel. This is
Yeah.
a valuable discovery.
Peer pressure does work occasionally.
This, you know what? In 10 years' time, this will be Arch's DrDisrespect moment. Like this will be clipped.
Probably.
When like
Yeah.
something comes out about Arch.
Nah,
Yeah,
like if I'm going to be cancelled of everything, it's going to be how I treat Lumi more so than anybody else.
Yeah. But all right, I'm gonna get going. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it. And chat, thank you for hanging out the past few hours. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
All right, nice to meet you too. Bye, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Have a good day.